Welcome to the fantasy audiobook. Hokage, forged into a god, gifted sword at the beginning white Fang. Chapter 61. Needless to say, Naraku is ready to hand over the Hokage seeds directly to Mifune. Mifune can be said to be his first subordinate in the ninja world who truly belongs to him. He will definitely greatly strengthen the combat power of his subordinates. Naraku came to the forging room again and recalled how to make Hokage seeds. Then I discovered that the method of making this domineering seed is very simple. All you need to do is mark the domineering cells with secret magic seals and then beat them hard while roasting them. Then just cool down and take it orally. This stunned Naraku, who had studied biology before. You must know that the size of cells on the earth used to vary depending on the type. From the smallest mycoplasma cell with a diameter of only 0.1-0.3 to the largest ostrich egg yolk with a diameter of 5 centimeters. Naraku took out a domineering cell that was about the same size as an adult male's head and fell into deep thought. Moreover, the high temperature roasting and beating in manufacturing are also outrageous. For example, some normal cells and tissues in the human body can withstand a high temperature of 47 degrees Celsius. The domineering cells can actually withstand such terrifying temperatures of thousands of degrees. Naraku can only say that he in the extraordinary world does not understand biology. Next, Naraku divided several senior labor force shadow clone to come out to work together. Naraku first carved the secret spell seal on the domineering cells with 3 clones, and then the 3 clones were responsible for forging it, while Naraku held it and roasted it under high temperature. Looking at the domineering cells that were still black, Naraku knew that the fire was not enough. He could only use fire style next to him to heat up the domineering cells. Naraku thought that he would need to find a location similar to a volcano in the future, otherwise he would rely on ordinary coal for heating every time, which would no longer meet the forging temperature requirements of some materials. 3 hours later, Naraku coughed twice. The long fire style made his throat feel as if he had just finished eating shinigami peppers. Naraku looked at the domineering cells that had turned into 10 centimeters in diameter in front of him. According to the inherited memory in his mind, the domineering cells at this time were actually ready for use. Naraku thought, how about asking Mifune Tsutomu to work hard? He just swallowed the domineering seed with a diameter of 10 centimeters. In the end, Naraku didn't become a devil because he was afraid that Mifune's throat bone would be broken and he wouldn't be able to swallow it. 3 hours later, Naraku's throat was almost numb. The domineering seed has shrunk to 5 centimeters in diameter. Naraku found that the further back it went, the more difficult it became to forge, especially when the temperature was not particularly high. Although it still looks very big now, Naraku believes that Mifune Tsutomu's efforts should be enough. The average human on Earth can swallow an object of about 5.5 centimeters. Now this thing is only 5 centimeters and this world is an extraordinary world after all, so it should be okay. The humble author issues a life-saving statement. Regarding the possible dangerous behaviors in the book above and below, please do not try it. If something goes wrong, you will be responsible for the consequences. This is an extraordinary world, and ordinary humans should not imitate it. Naraku was still thinking that since Mifune had come, he couldn't justify not giving him a good knife. This time, Naraku once again took out the 10,000 years King Kong wood. Before, Naraku originally thought of adding some fancy materials to the 10,000 years King Kong wood, now that Mifune's future domineering path has been determined. Then he doesn't have to deal with all the trouble. This almost indestructible 10,000-year-old diamond wood can become stronger step by step along with Mifune's path as a swordsman, and eventually become his own supreme sharp sword. A little decoration was added to the Naraku 10,000 years King Kong wood, and the words, Lake Toya, were marked on it. Bite. Congratulations to the blacksmith for forging the A-level weapon Toyako. Naraku then appraised the sword in his hand. Toyako A-. This sword was forged by the blacksmith who imitated Gintama-chan's favorite sword Toyako. It used 10,000 years of gold steel wood and did not put any effort into it. It just added a little decoration and markings. Although it is a wooden sword and has no edge, it can still pierce people. The wooden sword has the words, Lake Toya, on it. This knife is 1.4 meters long, has sturdiness properties, and can smoothly conduct chakra and other energies. Naraku ignored some of the ironic words written by the system. This system knew only a hammer and did not use other materials in order not to disgrace the 10,000-year-old gold steel wood. And using only this 10,000-year-old gold steel wood, you can see that the materials used are solid. How can this wise system understand his profound meaning? As for why it is not sharpened, Naraku said that sharpening this thing is as difficult as taking a rebar and grinding it into a needle with a stone on the roadside, which is almost impossible. In short, have you ever seen a blacksmith who can forge an A-level weapon in 2.5 minutes? What is the ultimate invincible blacksmith in the world? Naraku's tactics fall back. The next day, in the reception room of the Uchiha tribe, Mifune looked at Naraku respectfully. Naraku pretended to put his hand into his trouser pocket, but in fact he took out the domineering seeds in the system space, and then Naraku handed the domineering seeds to Mifune. At this time, Mifune's expression was a little weird, because from his perspective, his boss took out a black iron egg from his crotch and handed it to him. Naraku didn't notice Mifune's slight expression, but said calmly with a slight smile, "Mifune, the answer you want to save the Iron Country is in this ball. Swallow it." Mifune also struggled for 2 seconds, but thinking that he could save the Iron Kingdom, he endured the discomfort and swallowed the 5 centimeters diameter ball. What surprised Mifune was that the iron ball he swallowed disappeared after entering his body. There was no discomfort in his body, but he didn't feel any stronger. Naraku saw that Mifune didn't seem to have changed much, and knew that Mifune probably needed a little stimulation. So Naraku took Mifune and started eating barbecue Poseidon. Although Mifune didn't understand why Naraku did this, he felt that Naraku must have his own deep meaning. After the two of them finished eating barbecue, Naraku told Mifune, "I am going to give you a powerful weapon. You will grow with this weapon in the future." These words made Mifune feel hot in his heart. I wonder what swordsman wouldn't want a weapon that can grow with him. When Naraku handed Lake Toya to Mifune, Mifune was already a little numb. This looks no different from the wooden sword that children like to play with, except that Lake Toya is engraved on it, which Mifune doesn't understand what it means. Naraku stopped being the riddler. The iron ball you just ate is called the Haki seed. It gives you the possibility of awakening the armed Haki and the wisdom Haki. Wisdom and knowledge of color Haki can sharpen a person's 5 senses, allowing them to detect the breath and emotional changes of surrounding creatures, and use it to predict and avoid danger. Armed Haki can improve one's own defense and attack power. Armed Haki has different usage techniques due to its flowability, which can be divided into winding and hardening, flowing outward, and internal destruction. There are different skills in using the armed colors, but it does not mean the intensity of the armed colors, let alone the level of strength. It can be said that this is a completely different way of strengthening than chakra. Compared with chakra, the difference in bloodline is that domineering can continue to become stronger with practice. It can be said that if you reach the extreme level of domineering, you can cut through mountains with one sword or break them with one punch. This same approach is more suitable for a swordsman and a samurai. Mifune couldn't help but get a little excited when he heard Naraku's various domineering skills and powerful destructive power. He knew that if what Naraku said was true, then the era of samurai had arrived. After all, he has never heard of anything other than tailed beast jade. Ninjutsu can break mountains with one strike. Maybe one day Mifune will be able to confidently say that the era of ninjas is over. Naraku looked at Mifune, who was thinking about it, and said, "It can be said that the Haki path has a lot of content, but that will happen later. If you don't awaken your Haki, it will all be empty talk. Now pick up Lake Toya and fight with me." Mifune was also very surprised. Could it be that Naraku-sama has such superb forging ability and also has terrifying strength? But anyway, he was using a wooden sword and it shouldn't hurt Naraku, so he also picked up Lake Toya and made a starting stance. Naraku also took out a toy knife directly from the weird position. Naraku knew that Mifune might not go all out in his attack. Therefore, he showed amazing speed on the first strike, as fast as lightning. Seeing Naraku's sword coming with frightening speed and power, Mifune could only rely on instinct to raise the wooden sword Toyako in his hand to resist it. He originally expected that Lake Toya would be cut off and he would be hurt, but the fact surprised him. Although Lake Toya is just an unedged wooden sword, its toughness is beyond imagination. Even when the frighteningly sharp blade in Naraku's hand struck Lake Toya didn't even leave a scratch. At this moment, Mifune began to gradually build up his confidence in Lake Toya. After Naraku finished his attack, he did not continue to attack. Instead, he stood quietly and looked at Mifune calmly. Mifune, fight with all your strength. You can't hurt me. You are my destined future general. Do you always have to be protected under my wings? Naraku's voice was calm and powerful, with an unquestionable tone, majesty. Upon hearing this, Mifune's expression became serious. He knew that this was Naraku's test for him in recognition of his strength. Lord Naraku, I will do my best. Mifune took a deep breath, a trace of determination flashed in his eyes. He set up his starting position again, and his whole body's momentum instantly rose to its peak. With a soft drink, Mifune flashed and rushed towards Naraku like lightning. Lake Toya in his hand struck Naraku with a sharp aura. The corners of Naraku's mouth raised slightly, revealing a faint smile. He turned slightly and easily dodged Mifune's attack. At the same time, the sword in his hand also swung out, intersecting with Mifune's sword. Bang! A collision sounded. The two figures passed each other in the air, and then quickly separated. Their movements are as fast as the wind, and every move is full of power and skill. Naraku's attack was as violent as a violent storm, making Mifune feel a little unable to resist. But he did not back down, but gritted his teeth and tried his best to deal with it. Under the stimulation of the lightning-style chakra, Naraku's speed became more and more exaggerated, and every knife seemed to carry the power of thunder. Some wounds gradually appeared on Mifune's body, but he still persisted. As time goes by, Mifune's physical strength gradually fails, but Naraku still maintains a strong fighting capacity. Finally, under a fierce attack from Naraku, Mifune was knocked away. It's over, Mifune, Naraku said softly. There was a trace of disappointment in his eyes. Mifune panted heavily and looked at Naraku with a look of dismay. He also seemed to realize something at this moment. The black-armed domineering energy attached to Lake Toya, turning Lake Toya black. At this time, Mifune also slowly lowered his body. Naraku remembered what he had heard before about the swordsman being more powerful the lower he pressed down, so when he was about to fall down, he ran away quickly. With Naraku's strength, there was no need to escape, but he became more serious. Mifune's face was solemn. He took a deep breath and said silently in his heart, "Swordsmanship, aye." His body rushed forward like lightning, and the knife in his hand chopped at Naraku's hair at an extremely fast speed. There was a trace of surprise on Naraku's face, but his movements did not pause at all. He also raised his weapon at extreme speed and blocked Mifune's attack. But in order to easily resist the sword, Naraku activated Sharingan. Clang! A crisp metal collision sound resounded throughout the space. Mifune's eyes widened and he stared at Naraku's face. His self-defeating strike was easily resisted by Naraku. At this time, he noticed that Naraku had just opened the Sharingan when he resisted his last attack. This means that Naraku did not use all his strength in the battle with him just now, but just dealt with it casually. Mifune couldn't help but admire Naraku even more. Naraku said to Mifune with satisfaction, "It seems that your talent is very good. Now you can understand the color-coiled and hardened weapons." Mifune also said to Naraku, "I don't dare to be proud in front of my lord. My lord is powerful and I am not as good as Bai." It was also at this moment that Mifune completely recognized Naraku as his lord. Naraku also feels the same pleasure as Dongjo adopting an adopted son, and Mifune is much more reliable than Liu Biyu. So Naraku nodded again with satisfaction and said, "In the future, you can continue to exercise the strength of your armed color hockey. I will also tell you the other two techniques of armed color hockey. Flowing to the outside, can wrap the body's unnecessary armed domineering flow around the hands or weapons and release it, directly evolving into substantial attack power or defense power. Internal destruction, armed color hockey is actually a way of using it externally. It can spread the armed color outward and pass through the surface of an object, directly destroying the interior of the object." Quote. After teaching Mifune, Naraku began to prepare for the next forging. Before forging, Naraku also chose to receive a reward from Mifune. Bite. Mifune's use of Haki Seed has reached the primary level, and the talent is copied and activated, armed color hockey primary level. Mifune's use of Lake Toya has reached the primary level, and his talent is copied and activated, Mifune Kendo. Naraku just felt a sour feeling welling up from deep inside his body, and his whole body seemed a little sluggish, and his body was trembling a little for this reason. Then Naraku took out a thick, hard, black and shiny thing that seemed to be a little purple. The muscles on it were bulging out. Yes, it was the arm with the armed hockey attached to it. Naraku sensed the inherent flow characteristics of the armed hockey and stopped forging it for the time being. Maybe it's because Naraku has a body that surpasses Mifune, and Naraku's armament seems to be full of domineering energy. This can still be experimented by Naraku. He will cover the weapon color on his right arm, then his left arm, his right leg, his left leg, and finally his middle leg. Feeling the terrifying hardness, Naraku nodded with satisfaction. In fact, there is one thing that Naraku has always been troubled about. Since the things Naraku forges are not very simple, the wear and tear of his forging hammer is very high, and he has to replace it frequently every half a day. Now that he has the armed color, he can completely cover the hammer with the armed color, so that he can both forge and exercise the domineering power of the armed color. But as a blacksmith, he still wanted a good hammer. He thought it would be great if he was given Thor's hammer one day, and he would grow up with the hammer in the future. If he really can't draw it, he can only wait for the powerful materials later to build it himself. As for Mifune Kendo's use of chakra, it is very rough, but the coordination of the physical body is very good. I think it will be very powerful when paired with the weapon color or conqueror's dominance in the future. Naraku began to calm down after having loved for a while. He is now ready to complete the forging of the Belt Taigu Beast King, Lion King. To forge this, you need to kill the immortal Lion King first, which is not an easy job. I just don't know if the Lion King can withstand Murasama's poison. After all, the Lion King's immortality is too strong. Naraku, who came to the Senju tribe, saw his big teacher Tsunade again. Since the rope tree has been lying down recently, this big teacher has also restrained himself a lot recently and even gambled very little. Naraku showed up again with a warm smile and said to Tsunade, "Teacher." "Naraku, you're here." Tsunade put down the scroll in her hand. Because she couldn't save the rope tree before, she felt that her medical ninjutsu was not strong enough, so she has been studying medical ninjutsu recently. Naraku hurriedly sat next to Tsunade, and Tsunade did not refuse her apprentice's advice. After all, although Naraku was almost as tall as an adult, he was still 9 years old. Therefore, Tsunade usually won't stop some of his seemingly outrageous behaviors. A certain Shinigami Elementary School student also has a deep understanding of this kind of behavior of taking advantage of one's age to cause trouble. Smelling the fragrance of Tsunade's hair, Naraku said, "Teacher, I want to build a new taigu recently. But I can't get that dangerous species, so can you help me?" After hearing this, Tsunade became a little more serious. After all, Tyrant she had beaten was very difficult to deal with. Tsunade said, "How strong is that dangerous species? Do you need me to call Jiraiya?" Naraku, "No need, this dangerous species does not have the ability to evolve infinitely like Tyrant. The main reason is that its vitality is extremely tenacious. And this time I will let Uchiha Scarlet and Murasama be brought along." After hearing Naraku's assurance, Tsunade also stood up and stretched. It was originally an exaggerated arc, but it became more attractive and deadly with Tsunade's movements. This set of actions stunned Naraku. What Naraku didn't notice was that Tsunade smiled slightly at Naraku's expression. Since the immortal Lion King was not as easy to escape as Sora before, he was not sealed this time. Hoshi, just find the opportunity to scratch the dangerous species later. Hoshi agreed expressionlessly, staring at Tsunade's huge bulge. She didn't quite understand why everyone was a girl, but Tsunade's secondary traits were so obvious, while she was a two-faced little steamed bun. Tsunade naturally didn't have the shyness of a little girl, and she even straightened her back. "I'm going to be released." As Naraku finished speaking, the two women also concentrated their attention. Roar! With a deafening roar, a huge, blood-red undead Lion King appeared in front of everyone. It is completely different from ordinary lions. It is tall and mighty, several meters tall. As soon as this undead Lion King appeared, he stared closely at the few humans in front of him, with greedy light shining in his eyes. In its uncomplicated brain, it believes that eating the humans in front of it will bring it some kind of benefit. When Tsunade saw the immortal Lion King, the corners of her mouth raised slightly. She rubbed her itchy fists, and then rushed towards the immortal Lion King without hesitation. Seeing Tsunade being so arrogant, the immortal Lion King couldn't help but stare angrily, opened his big mouth, and prepared to swallow Tsunade in one gulp. However, at the moment when Tsunade was about to be eaten by the undead Lion King, her figure suddenly disappeared and was replaced by a piece of wood. It turns out that Tsunade had already used the substitute technique to replace herself with wood to attract the attention of the undead Lion King. At this time, the real Tsunade had leapt high and jumped on the head of the immortal Lion King. "It's a pain in the sky," Tsunade shouted and used her signature skill, a pain in the sky. I saw her jade feet falling hard on the head of the immortal Lion King, and powerful kinetic energy poured into it like a tide. The immortal Lion King roared in pain, but could not escape Tsunade's attack. Tsunade's strange power is astonishing, and this kick contains terrifying destructive power. The immortal Lion King's head hit the ground instantly, the earth cracked open instantly, and the immortal Lion King's brain slowly flowed out. "That's it now." Uchiha opened a big hole in the immortal Lion King's body with a blink of an eye. The poison spread all over the immortal Lion King's body in a short period of time, just when everyone thought the immortal Lion King couldn't get up. The wounds of the immortal Lion King were slowly recovering, and bloody liquid flowed from the surface of its body. Naraku knew that the immortal Lion King should have used his immortal state at this time. So he shouted to Tsunade, "Teacher, attack." Tsunade could only hold back her nausea and punch the Lion King's head one after another. Under Tsunade's strange punches, the undead Lion King tried to get up again and again but failed again and again. Finally, as the immortal Lion King's brain exploded, it fell to the ground completely. Naraku also hurriedly stepped forward and asked Tsunade, "Teacher, are you okay?" Tsunade smiled boldly and said, "Little lion, how can something happen to me?" After Naraku discovered that Tsunade was fine, he hurriedly began to refine the immortal Lion King on the ground. Seemingly realizing that Naraku was not as close as usual, Tsunade looked at her body and saw that it was already covered with the blood of the Lion King. Tsunade was furious. "I worked so hard to help you fight dangerous species and you actually dislike me." Suddenly, Naraku, who had his back turned to her, gave him a hug. Naraku instantly felt two giant objects pressing against his back, and what was different from usual was that he didn't smell Tsunade's body fragrance. Instead, I smelled the blood and brains of the immortal Lion King. As if because she thought she had taught Naraku a lesson, Tsunade said carelessly, "I'm going back to take a shower." Then he left. Naraku also refined the undead Lion King into biological essence and left with Uchiha. Naraku, who returned to his clan, looked at Mifune who was still working hard to train his armed haki, and Naraku nodded with satisfaction. I thought to myself, "Mifune, you should train hard. It is best to train to a high-level armed color. Then I will receive another reward and get it directly." Naraku walked to the forging room he was familiar with, and he thought about whether there was any way to make a further breakthrough in becoming the king of beasts Lion King. After thinking for a long time, Naraku gave up because he had no suitable materials around him. But he can make a little optimization on the transformation of the king of beasts Lion King, that is, the position of the palm can choose whether to transform into a beast. This is why the profession of ninja needs to consider seals. Although Naraku rarely sees Tsunade form seals when fighting, in line with the people-oriented service concept, Naraku is still prepared to add them. Otherwise, it would be bad if Tsunade got scratched one day. Since the Taigu of the Beast King Lion King is a belt-type Taigu, the new Taigu did not include green orangutan crimson sand iron, and orangutan crimson ore, but only used 10 parts of Aurea steel and refined 10 kilograms of iron to further enhance Taigu's chakra conduction ability. Bang! With a muffled sound, the working clones number 1, 2, and 3 appeared in front of them again. The 3 of them each have their own division of labor. One of them is responsible for lighting the fire, and the other 2 focus on the forging work. Naraku's body is responsible for supplementing materials and observing the entire process. As time goes by, Naraku masters the rhythm of wrought iron better and better, and his speed becomes faster and faster. Only half a day later, a beautiful belt appeared in front of him. Naraku carefully dropped the biological essence of the immortal Lion King on his belt and began to recite the spell. As his voice sounded, the biological essence quickly integrated into the inside of the belt. At the moment when the belt finally took shape, there seemed to be a roar of a lion. Bite. Congratulations to the blacksmith for forging an A-level weapon, transforming into the King of Beasts, Lion King. Naraku's routine is to check the properties of this belt. Transformation into the King of Beasts, Lion King, A-level weapon. This belt uses extremely fresh biological materials, in addition to Oliha steel and fine iron. The standard belt-type Taigu secret technique was used during the forging process. It took half a day to forge. It finally reached a level that slightly surpassed the original weapon. This belt can be freely adjusted in length, has sturdiness characteristics, and has a strong ability to conduct chakra. Skills. 1. Beast transformation. Transform yourself into a beast and dramatically improve your physical abilities. Your sense of smell is also enhanced and you can search for enemies. 2. The lion will never die. Improve your own resilience. Even if your hands and feet are cut off or your eyes are blinded, you can stop bleeding and grow back on your own. 3. Beast transformation selection. Users can freely choose the parts they want to transform into beasts. Naraku suddenly saw that his eyes could grow back even if they were poked out by you. He couldn't help but have an evil idea. He caught Uchiha Madara, dug out his eyes repeatedly, and then let him grow new ones by transforming into the King of Beasts. Will this allow mass production of the Samsara Eye? Unfortunately, Naraku knew that was impossible. Even if Uchiha Madara was willing, the transformation into the King of Beasts would not be able to make up for the lost eye power. Naraku came to Tsunade's house. At this time, Tsunade was drinking wine and studying medical ninjutsu. Naraku couldn't help but want to complain, can he really learn like this? Tsunade was already used to the arrival of this apprentice, and she still focused on her own studies. Naraku sat down next to Tsunade again, but what surprised Naraku was that Tsunade actually pushed her away in disgust. It seemed that Tsunade was still holding a grudge for being disliked that morning. This appearance of Tsunade made Naraku want to laugh. The 23-year-old Tsunade, who has not gone through huge torture, sometimes really looks like a female college student, although this female college student is a bit violent. Naraku sat down next to Tsunade again, and this time Tsunade didn't push him away. Naraku said to Tsunade, "Teacher, I am going to give you a gift. Close your eyes." Tsunade closed her eyes after hesitating for 2 seconds. Naraku then placed the belt of the Beast King transformation, Lion King, in front of Tsunade. Then he said, "You can open your eyes now." As Tsunade slowly opened her eyes, she discovered the belt in front of her. Naraku explained, "This is the belt of the Beast King transformation, Lion King, a weapon forged by the undead Lion King the first used before. As long as you silently say, 'Transform, Lion King,' in your mind, it can allow the user to transform into a beast to gain enhanced physical fitness and enhanced sense of smell. It also has a secret meaning, the lion never dies. After using it, it can greatly strengthen the recovery power, even if the hands and feet are cut off, it can be restored. In this way, teacher, you can further improve your survival ability." After listening to Naraku's words, Tsunade realized that Naraku had asked her to immune to death the Lion King in order to forge the Taigu for herself, and she couldn't help but feel a little moved. Especially when Tsunade's elders passed away one after another, leaving only a stupid brother who still needed her to take care of, so naturally he would not take care of her. Tsunade slowly hugged Naraku's head. Naraku wondered if that was coming. Tsunade slowly moved her lips to Naraku's forehead and kissed it. Naraku, who was kissed on the forehead by a beautiful member of the opposite gender for the first time, blushed slightly with embarrassment and felt very satisfied. As for why Tsunade's kiss of death is simply nonsense, would his dignified Uchiha Naraku be afraid of this? He set this flag. After kissing Naraku, Tsunade looked at Naraku's blushing face and couldn't help but smile. "Good disciple, follow me to see the power of your new Taigu." Transformation. Lion King. As Tsunade's silent thoughts were completed, a lion's roar was heard. Tsunade also started to transform, and 2 cute animal ears grew on her head, and the ears moved from time to time. Her palms also changed, turning into lion paws with soft fur, which looked very cute. A knotty tail was forced out of the clothes behind her buttocks. The tail waggled back and forth, as if greeting people around her. Naraku looked at it and moved his index finger. Tsunade clenched her fist. She felt that her fist was itching even more, but considering that this was her own home, she simply punched the rockery next to her with her physical body. The rockery also fell apart instantly under the destruction of Tsunade's fist. I have to say that the Senju family is still rich. What Naraku didn't know was that while he and Tsunade were enjoying their world, the old man Danzo was speaking ill of him behind his back. Hiruzen, arrest Uchiha Naraku. Look what he is doing. If he takes in a person from the Iron Kingdom in the Uchiha tribe, will he give that person another Taigu? Is he preparing to collude with the forces of other countries? Or is he preparing to stand on his own and break out of Konoha? Danzo opened his mouth and spat fiercely at Sarutobi Hiruzen. I have to say that Danzo once again acted as a prophet and accurately guessed Naraku's thoughts. Sarutobi Hiruzen was also a little dissatisfied with Naraku, but he still had to say what he said, otherwise Danzo would dare to take his dissatisfaction as an order and really arrest Uchiha Naraku. Sarutobi Hiruzen raised his head and said, Naraku-chan must have been deceived by outsiders. We will see what happens later and drive that samurai away. Danzo still wanted to give it a try. Leave Naraku to me. I will train him to become the best forging machine in Konoha. I will not allow the young people in your village to become like this. Get out, I still have to deal with government affairs. Hiruzen Sarutobi issued an eviction order. Danzo looked at Hiruzen Sarutobi sitting on the Hokage chair that should have belonged to him, handling the government affairs that should have been handled by him, and the jealousy in his heart directly made him break up. For Danzo, the Hokage throne is like a peerless beauty. Watching Hiruzen Sarutobi work hard from morning to night every day, he even feels like his belt is getting wider and he never regrets it. He finally couldn't help but said again, Hiruzen, you will regret it. Sarutobi Hiruzen said as if on conditioned reflex, Danzo, I am the Hokage, I will not regret it. Bang! Danzo slammed the door and walked out. Hiruzen Sarutobi looked at the door that was about to break down again and thought about whether the money for repairing the door in the future should be deducted from the root. Naraku was on his way home when suddenly Anbu appeared in front of him. Uchiha Naraku, Lord Hokage calls you over. Naraku looked at the sun in the sky, it was daytime. Is Danzo so arrogant? Are you going to kidnap people on the street during the day? Just when Naraku was about to call out loudly, Anbu left. Naraku then realized that this should be the real Anbu. So I headed to the Hokage building alone. Naraku-chan, how have you been lately? Sarutobi Hiruzen asked with a forced and kind expression. Looking at you, this seems to be a sign of some kind of interrogation. Naraku thought of a legendary figure in his previous life, Che Guevara, so he put on a classic expression and said, it's good. There are friends and daughters playing in the village. Playing, you don't have to go to school every day, just forge weapons every day to support yourself. When Hiruzen Sarutobi heard Naraku's strange accent, he thought it was a popular saying among primary school students, so he didn't pay much attention to it. But he caught the essence of Naraku's words and smiled again and said, Little Naraku, you should go to the ninja school when you have time. Only in this way can you grow better, and you can get to know each other in the ninja school. Many new friends. Naraku held his breath and said, why go to the ninja school to meet new friends? Why don't you want me to accept the crappy will of fire education you wrote that is comparable to Uchiha's stinky feet? Oh, God, if it weren't for me I don't want to fall out now, I swear I will kick you hard. But since Naraku no longer wanted to argue with this old guy, he said, okay, Master Hokage. I will go often. Sarutobi Hiruzen felt a little relaxed when he saw that Naraku seemed to be as obedient as usual in his eyes. He changed the topic. Little Naraku, I heard recently that you took in a samurai from the Kingdom of Iron. Yes, he is a samurai who wants to ask me to forge a weapon. But I told him that I am from Konoha and cannot easily make weapons for people from other villages. But I felt that I couldn't give him any hope, so I told him that as long as he can cut through steel with a wooden sword, I will admit that he is a powerful warrior and make him a sword for free. Naraku continued to play the outstanding heir to the Will of Fire. After hearing this, Sarutobi Hiruzen was very satisfied with Naraku's decision. He was polite and had a bottom line. He felt that there might be someone in the ninja world who could cut steel with a wooden sword, but he would definitely not be a samurai. After that, he encouraged Naraku a few more words, and then let Naraku leave. Naraku gradually faded the fake smile on his face after leaving Hokage's office. He didn't expect that just by taking in a samurai, Sarutobi Hiruzen would come and beat him up. It seems that his current position in their eyes is that of a forging machine with no ability to resist. And as Naraku becomes more and more powerful now, Naraku becomes more and more lazy to compromise with the Konoha duo. He was too lazy to stay and compete with these short-sighted people, so he felt that he should go further to find a way out for himself. Naraku, who had just returned home, saw Mifune cutting off the steel with one sword, so he said to Mifune, "Mifune, your strength has improved to a certain extent now, you can leave Konoha tomorrow. When you return to the Kingdom of Iron, you must continue to exercise your armed haki, and constantly try to awaken your knowledge haki. Let me remind you, you can try to close your eyes to feel this domineering existence." "Yes, Lord. As soon as I finish my business in the Iron Country, I will rush back to Konoha to follow my lord." Mifune bowed. Naraku said, "What I need from you is to run the Iron Country into an iron barrel, rather than simply come to my side as a guard. The Iron Country may be my retreat." Mifune's eyes immediately showed a fierce light. "Can't the master even have basic freedom and safety guaranteed in Konoha? I am willing to lead the master to fight out of Konoha." Naraku looked at Mifune, who was a bit silly since learning the weapon color, and couldn't help but be speechless, but after all, his loyalty is commendable. "Konoha can't keep me. It's just that there are still many acquaintances of mine here, and I don't want to do anything. And I still have some unfinished business." Then Naraku also told a bombshell that he would leave Konoha with Mifune and give him a kunai with a mark. Afterwards, Naraku returned to the bedroom and chose to receive the reward from Tsunade. Bite. Tsunade's use of King of Beasts Lion King has reached the primary level, talent copy activation, Senju Clan Physique primary level. I see many people say that the benefits are low. The higher the level of using or mastering this weapon, the higher the reward. Otherwise, the protagonist will throw a knife to Uchiha Madara casually, and Uchiha Madara will swing the knife twice at will, then the protagonist will "Can you follow the reincarnation eye?" That would be outrageous. Since Naraku himself has the intermediate physique of the Senju clan, his primary physique will improve him to a certain extent, but the quantitative change is not enough to cause a qualitative change. Naraku said goodbye to Mifune early the next morning. Tsunade had been telling him before that she would teach him taijutsu and ninjutsu. It was rare for Naraku to see the majestic Tsunade, and it was rare for Tsunade to adopt the attitude of a strict teacher this time. "Naraku, I saw your combat prowess when I sent the rope tree back, although as a ninja school student, your strength is already very good. But there are many things you can do but haven't." Naraku nodded. "Yeah, Naraku, you sign a contract with Shigulan first." As if she felt that Naraku didn't know about the Marsh Bone Forest, Tsunade said to herself, "The Marsh Bone Forest is a place of inheritance as famous as Ryachi Cave and Mount Myoboku. There are a large number of Katsuyu living inside, which are actually split bodies of Katsuyu Sage's body. These Katsuyu also have the ability to split, can deliver the chakra of medical ninjas on a large scale to treat injured people, and can also spit corrosive liquid from their mouths to attack opponents. If you need to channel Katsuyu, the greater the amount of chakra of the caster, the larger the volume of Katsuyu channeled." Quote. As Tsunade unfolded the psychic scroll of Shigulan, Naraku saw densely packed names on it, most of which were members of the Senju clan. Naraku even saw the names of Senju Hashirama and Senju Tobarama on it. Naraku then obediently wrote his name on it. Naraku looked at the word, Uchiha, among the densely packed Senju and couldn't help but feel it was a bit eye-catching. Naraku can even imagine that a certain white-haired Senju would be furious if he saw this scene and said, "Uchiha brat. How dare you coax little Tsunade? Look, I will kill you immediately." At this time, Mifune was running quickly in the forest. He was very fast, shuttling between the woods like a wild boar. However, suddenly, Mifune jumped suddenly, trying to avoid the oncoming shurikens. Although his reaction was quick, his body was twisting like a maggot. But there were too many shurikens, as dense as raindrops, and a few still fell on him. These shurikens hit his body, and he fell to the ground. At this moment, a group of root ninjas quietly appeared, and they slowly gathered around to form an encirclement. The leader of the root ninja wears a unique, eagle, mask. He sneered and said, "What kind of warrior from the Iron Kingdom is so weak?" Faced with the enemy's ridicule, Mifune suddenly rose up. At that moment, he launched his usual starting hand, II slash. In an extraordinary world without American II, Mifune's II slash attack can be said to be both accurate and fast. Mifune's movements were very fast, and he swung the katana in his hand at an astonishing speed. The blade drew a line of cold light in the air, instantly penetrating the body of the eagle mask. The sword was so fast that the ninjas at the root had no time to react. With just one knife, the eagle mask was split in half. With a bang sound, the eagle mask turned into white mist and disappeared. At this time, the surrounding root ninjas also dispersed. "I know you're not dead. Come together." Following the eagle's order, the surrounding root ninjas immediately began to use long-range attacks. Fire style, shurikens, and detonating charms tied with kunai all flew towards Mifune. What eagle mask didn't expect was that Mifune did not hesitate in the face of the attack. Mifune seems to have a unique understanding of hesitation leads to defeat. Mifune rushed towards him with an indomitable offensive. II slash. With a loud shout in his heart, Mifune used II slash again. This attack is faster and stronger than before, making it impossible to dodge. Eagle mask finally realized how ridiculous he was. At such a speed, he didn't even have time to use ninjutsu to interrupt or affect Mifune's offensive, let alone use ninjutsu to take over this move. He just instinctively used the kunai in his hand to resist the blow, but he did not realize that the knife in Mifune's hand had changed. Mifune has already covered Lake Toya with military colors. In an instant, the eagle mask and the kunai were split open by Mifune's slash, and the whole person was split in half diagonally. His eyes widened, his face full of shock and disbelief. He never thought that he would be defeated so easily, and also by a man with a wooden knife. However, he didn't know that Mifune's wooden sword had become as hard as iron and could easily cut through steel. The death of eagle mask made the other root ninjas around them instinctively feel a sense of fear, and they began to realize that Mifune's strength was far beyond their imagination. But this fear instinct is not worth mentioning in the eyes of the root ninjas who have been trained by Danzo for a long time. For these root ninjas who have been puaed by Danzo, everything they do is for Konoha. Their own emotions were suppressed to the lowest level, and only the thought of working for the so-called Konoha filled their minds. These root ninjas immediately wanted to distance themselves from Mifune, and then used long-range attacks to kill Mifune. But Mifune would not give them a chance. He once again advanced at a terrifying speed, not prepared to give the enemy any breathing time. Mifune stared closely at one of the root ninjas, looking for a suitable angle. The root ninja felt Mifune's gaze and felt a chill in his heart. Another unpretentious and boring blow. This root ninja went to Naraku's Shinigami temple to report. But at this time, the ninjas at the root distanced themselves again. This time these ninjas formed seals with their hands. Earth style river. This is a ninjutsu used by special jonin at the root. The soil under Mifune's feet instantly turned into liquid and had the tendency to flow into a big river. Mifune can only make one jump. Seeing Mifune jumping up, Hungry Wolf Mask also smiled slightly, waiting for now. All root ninjas want to focus on Mifune. However, Mifune in the air was not afraid at all, he was also ready. Swordsmanship splitting the sky. Mifune focused his chakra and armament haki on the blade and slashed forward with force. A sword energy slashes towards the enemy. The ordinary ninjutsu and hidden weapon attacks of those root ninjas are nothing compared to this sword energy. It was eliminated in an instant, and the sword energy continued to cut towards the roots unabated. Ah, 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 as screams sounded, 3 more ninjas died at the root. I have to say that the fighting will of the ninjas at the root is still good. Now less than half of them are dead, and the remaining 5 are still attacking Mifune. After Mifune landed, he continued to chase the roots on the ground. Even though he was very fast, there were still roots that could get behind him. But Mifune seemed to have eyes behind his back, and he could always detect attacks from behind. A minute later, as the last one fell down, the battle between samurai and ninja was over, and Mifune did not dare to stay any longer and quickly moved away from Konoha. On the way away from Konoha, Mifune secretly thought that he must have awakened to the Haki of Shining Haki. Since Naraku had just signed a contract with Shigulen, Tsunade took Naraku to Shigulen to report to Katsuyu Sage. Naraku is also very curious about Katsuyu Sage. In the original work, Katsuyu Sage can be said to be the most mysterious sage among the 3 holy places and has never appeared on the scene. The only known news is that Katsuyu Sage should be extremely huge. During the 4th Ninja War, Tsunade and Sakura, wrapped in 9 tails, channeled Katsuyu together under the blessing of the Yin Seal and Solution. 1/10 of the immortal. Tsunade and Naraku were walking in the marsh bone forest. The ground here was extremely moist and seemed to never dry up, giving people an eerie feeling. What they stepped on was not ordinary soil, but stones that seemed to have become smooth after being eroded by rain. People had to tread carefully with every step to avoid slipping. What's even more peculiar is that these stones protrude from the ground in various shapes and sizes, like a huge stone forest. Some of these stones resemble tall trees, while others resemble twisted vines, intertwined together to form a unique landscape. And these stones are all white, which makes the entire wet bone forest look particularly mysterious and weird. In addition to the ground and stones, the wet bone forest is also filled with dense fog, shrouding everything in it. This fog not only greatly restricted vision, but also made breathing difficult. Naraku watched Tsunade follow her memory and walked to a large mountain. Tsunade said respectfully, "Katsuyu Sage." Something happened that shocked Naraku. A deep and gentle voice came from the mountain in front of him. "It's little Tsunade. What's the matter?" At this time, Naraku realized that the giant white mountain in front of him was actually the body of Katsuyu Sage. Due to the low visibility of the Shiki bone forest and the size of Katsuyu Sage, Naraku could only see a piece of white flesh. "Katsuyu Sage, this is my apprentice Uchiha Naraku. Now he has signed a contract with Shigulen, so I come to talk to you." Tsunade finished her words. Katsuyu Sage split into a little Katsuyu. Naraku looked at Katsuyu, who seemed a little sticky and felt a little sick, but the little Katsuyu climbed onto Naraku without any scruples, and Naraku immediately got a bunch of goosebumps. Later, Naraku discovered that little Katsuyu looked disgusted, but in fact there was no sticky feeling on his body, and he even felt a little cool. It seemed that little Katsuyu had memorized Naraku's taste. Katsuyu Sage said, "Okay, little Tsunade. From now on, this person will be a qualified contractor of Shigulen." Afterwards, Tsunade was about to leave with Naraku, but Naraku was a little confused. He also thought that Katsuyu Sage would be surprised by his physique or something else, and might be a threat to him, so he also prepared some excuses and life-saving measures. Or maybe Katsuyu Sage will see that his skeletal wonder is a unique training in Sage Jutsu, and the peerless genius of Sage Jutsu will personally teach him a little Sage Jutsu. The most unlikely assumption is that Katsuyu Sennin thought that he was a wise master and would be the talker of the future ninja world, so he bowed his head and worshipped him. As a result, Katsuyu Sennin actually ignored him and didn't even say a word to him. Naraku feels that if he is a passionate male protagonist, he should say, 30 years in the east of Hidong, 30 years in the west of Hexi, don't bully young people into poverty. But Naraku is sometimes more cautious. After looking at Katsuyu Sennin's terrifying body shape and the terrifying level of Sage Jutsu chakra contained on it, he decided not to challenge others with his own life-saving means. Danzo, who was sitting in the office, was waiting for news about his men's pursuit of Mifune, but he simply felt that this outer village samurai might steal information after staying with the Uchiha clan for a few days. Especially the information related to Uchiha Naraku, plus Naraku said that he would give this person a wooden sword. Danzo also wanted to see what was special about this wooden sword given by Naraku, the master forger. In fact, since Danzo discovered Naraku's special talent, he has always wanted to bring Naraku under his banner to help him win the Hokage throne. However, Uchiha Naraku has always been slippery in a homebody. He has been living in the elder Uchiha's house since he was invited by the root ninja late at night. There were also many strong people in the village, and Hiruzen Sarutobi kept an eye on them, leaving Danzo completely unable to use his strength. Suddenly a root ninja appeared in front of Danzo and said, "This is the news that number 17 brought back before he died." Danzo looked at the news. A powerful samurai, so fast that he couldn't cast ninjutsu, ignores the defense of shurikens, a wooden sword that can turn black and is irresistible, can be fired powerful sword energy. In Danzo's opinion, these methods that are easy for ordinary samurai must come from the seemingly simple wooden sword given by Naraku. Danzo was not sad for his dead subordinate, but smiled and said, "Uchiha Naraku. I finally caught you." After leaving the wet-bone forest, Tsunade began to give Naraku new training. "Naraku, your sword skills and chakra are very powerful now. But you still lack some regular ninjutsu. I will give you some ordinary ninjutsu before leaving. Scrolls to perfect your fighting style. What are your basic chakra attributes?" Naraku did not hide anything and told Tsunade directly. "My basic chakra attributes are fire, water, wind, thunder, and earth." Tsunade did not ask Naraku whether he had yin or yang chakra attributes. The Uchiha clan must be born with yin attribute chakra. The yang attribute chakra is not a special ability of a specific bloodline or ethnic group, but can be obtained through training and practice. In Boruto legend, although Sarana is of the Uchiha clan, she mastered this ability through training and practice. As Naraku's accent fell, Tsunade was a little surprised. Naraku actually has all attributes. The last famous ninja with basic chakra and all attributes was Hiruzen Sarutobi. His all-attribute chakra, combined with his rich ninjutsu background and terrifying physical skills, created the reputation of the strongest Hokage in Konoha in the future. Naraku, if you are willing to work harder on the path of ninja, with your qualifications, you will definitely be able to compete with the Hokage in combat power in the future. Tsunade directly gave a high evaluation. Afterwards, Tsunade explained her situation to Naraku. "I mainly provide conventional medical treatment, including the yin seal related to ninjutsu, the art of Baihao, and the strange power fist of the Senju clan. You must know a little bit about medical ninjutsu. Yin seals are currently only available to women. If you want to use them, you need to develop them yourself. Finally, you can try the strange power fist of our Senju family. This ninjutsu requires extremely high chakra control ability and a large amount of chakra." Quote. Naraku thought for a moment and said, "Teacher, I want to improve my fighting system first. Can I also learn Kylie Fist and medical ninjutsu by the way?" Although Kylie Fist is theoretically a physical technique of the Senju clan, he has the physique of the Senju clan, which is more advanced than Tsunade and Nezuki, so he should be able to learn Kylie Fist. The power of the Kylie Fist is still very strong, although the Kylie Fist cannot break Uchiha Madara's Susanoo. During the Ninja World War, Tsunade's full punch only caused slight cracks in Uchiha Madara's Susanoo in its primary state. But it is considered the first echelon of taijutsu in the entire ninja world. Since then, Tsunade has been teaching Naraku step by step. Naraku looked at how late it was and said to Tsunade, "Teacher, I recently wanted to retreat to forging to see if I can improve my forging level. I won't be coming for the next 4 days." Tsunade didn't expect that Naraku would wane as soon as her interest rose. But he didn't want to disturb Naraku's forging, so he said, "Go away. Remember to come after forging. You have to come once a week. The rope tree is still lying down." If it hadn't been for Tsunade's words, Naraku would have almost forgotten about the rope tree. He has been busy picking up his sister, and the rope tree actually only needs to be released once a month. Naraku didn't expect that the original reason for looking for Tsunade would actually become a fetter, but next time he could say that the rope tree has improved and it would be enough to come once a month. Naraku was walking on the way home, when suddenly someone approached him at a corner and handed him a note. Naraku opened the note and found that it said, "Naraku, you don't want others to know about your forging taigu for ninjas from other villages." After that comes a location marker. Naraku saw that it was probably Danzo who was causing the trouble, and Naraku was also very curious about what Danzo was planning to do. Naraku is not afraid of Danzo at all now. You must know that the evil haunted evolved by the rope tree into pseudo, is still lying in Naraku's system space. Coupled with the ability to escape from the subdimensional phalanx, there is a group of ninja brothers in the Shinigami Temple who are eager to try. It can be said that Naraku's trump cards have increased too much, which has also led to him becoming more and more confident in the Konoha duo, except for Katsuyu Sage. You still have to follow your heart. Naraku followed the landmark to his destination and found that this location was exactly where he had thrown the mark in the grass. Unexpectedly, there is actually a root base underneath. At this time, several root ninjas went in with Naraku. As soon as Naraku entered, he saw that Danzo was well equipped and had his back turned to him, which made him want to use Millennium Kill. Uchiha Naraku, you don't really think that what you do is perfect? Danzo said angrily. What's going on? Naraku deliberately acted like he was panicked. Danzo turned around, stared at Naraku with an old face and said, "You are the one who gave the Taigu to a samurai from the Iron Kingdom. You are collaborating with the enemy. Do you believe that just by relying on this, I can basically regard you as a spy?" Kill. Naraku naturally didn't believe it, so his acting skills took off. With a small face, he begged and said to Danzo, "Danzo-sama. I really didn't give it to him on purpose. It was because I agreed to him without thinking so much before. He kept begging me after that. I don't have the nerve to go back on my word. Danzo-sama, help me. I still want to become the #1 blacksmith in the ninja world. I don't want to die yet." Danzo shook his head inwardly. A child is indeed a child. I still have many moves that I haven't used yet, so my defense is broken. But maybe it's my wise and powerful temperament that intimidates this brat. At this time, Danzo forced a weird smile on the old man who was no longer handsome, patted Naraku on the back and said, "Naraku, I know you are a good boy, you just won't refuse that thing. I will definitely go back to find him the weapons of the Kingdom of Iron and take back the Taigu." Naraku asked, "Did Danzo-sama know that the man took the Taigu and didn't stop him?" Danzo's old face couldn't help but feel a little embarrassed, and said, "I am doing it for you. If I make a big noise and Sarutobi Hiruzen knows about it, he will not let you go. He will definitely kill you. But if you are willing to join Genbu, and I have always been kind to my subordinates, and the working environment at Genbu is also very relaxed, this matter can be over." Quote. Really, I think third generation Sama looks pretty good. Naraku deliberately provoked Danzo's nerves. Danzo felt angry at that time. He felt that he was as evil as Hiruzen Sarutobi, but most people only thought that Shimura Danzo was a dark-hearted person, but thought that Sarutobi Hiruzen was a great man. Danzo immediately told Naraku a lot of bad things about Sarutobi Hiruzen. Sarutobi Hiruzen, who was dealing with official duties, suddenly sneezed several times in succession, but he continued to do some trivial official duties without paying attention. Listening a little disgusted, Naraku quickly interrupted Danzo's speech. "I know, it turns out that the third generation is not a good person. Then I will listen to Danzo-sama from now on. Danzo-sama's orders are the direction I pursue and work hard for." Target. Danzo ended the bad-mouthing session without wanting to finish, and asked his subordinates to bring something. Then he instructed Naraku to open it, and Naraku opened it to take a look. Finding that it seemed to be some kind of meatball, Naraku had a guess in his mind. "This is a biological material I got before. I think you can integrate it into my 8th room," Danzo said slowly. Naraku shook his head and said, "Danzo-sama, the 8 rooms have been completely forged. No new materials can be incorporated. If this biological material is strong, I can create a new weapon for you, such as making an invincible weapon, armor and the like." Danzo's eyes lit up after hearing this. Before, he only focused on strengthening his sword. "I didn't expect this. If the new armor made by Naraku can still have the power of haunted by evil spirits. If he could still transform into a dragon, he might be able to ascend to the throne of Hokage more quickly, instead of relying on the slow method of election and impeachment. Then when will you be able to complete the forging?" Danzo seemed a little impatient, and the false smile before was gone. Naraku said, "I don't know, I need to plan carefully. I have never seen this material before. I need to study it." Danzo resisted the urge to hand over the specific information of this material directly to Naraku. After all, Naraku, as Tsunade's apprentice, might have other accidents. This also left Danzo speechless. An Uchiha actually had such a good relationship with a Senju person. This was something that he never dared to think about before. I will provide you with a root accident forging room, where you can only study this biological material. And absolutely do not tell others what happened today, otherwise not even I can save you. You know it, Zhang threatened in a dark tone. Okay, Lord Danzo, I'll go back and make preliminary preparations in my forging room. It may take 4 days. As Naraku finished his final report, he was taken away by the root ninja. After Naraku left, an evil ghost mask root ninja walked up to Danzo. Sir, Uchiha Naraku has been sent away safely. Danzo nodded after hearing this, and the hypocritical smile he had before had long since gone away. He ordered to his men, pay close attention to who Uchiha Naraku will come into contact with during this period. The gloomy Danzo thought that as long as Uchiha Naraku didn't seek help from others, Danzo could help Uchiha Naraku step by step, into darkness. First, Naraku gave someone else a Taigu as an excuse, then he gave him Hashirama cells, then other impermissible materials, and finally Sharingan. He wants to turn Naraku step by step into a who can be driven by him without mercy. When Naraku returned home, he didn't have so many thoughts. For him, this was an interesting episode in his life. After he had a comfortable sleep, he explained to Uchiha Makoto the next day that he needed to retreat and forge. Don't disturb him. Naraku, who returned to the forging room, separated into several clones and stayed in the forging room. He himself used the dimensional phalanx to instantly teleport to a location 5 kilometers away. This mark was left by him when he went to rescue the rope tree. Naraku observed that there was no one around and put on the mask that he had prepared. After that, Naraku ran in one direction to the Kingdom of Iron. It wasn't that he didn't want to use the dimensional phalanx to rush on his way, but he was a little uneasy about whether his items with the dimensional phalanx mark would be picked up by others, and Mifune was also in a hurry at that time. Finally, the Kingdom of Iron is not very far away. With Naraku's speed, it only takes half a day to reach it. With the two-way blessing of Chakra's domineering power, Naraku's current body can even compete with taijutsu ninjas like Kai in terms of speed. After driving for a long time, Naraku arrived at the Kingdom of Iron. He looked at this country that was basically in a world of ice and snow, and there were very few ninjas. Naraku showed a satisfied smile. He was going to make the resurrection cocoon and put it in the Kingdom of Iron. The Kingdom of Iron is sparsely populated, snows all year round, and lacks ninjas, especially after resisting Hanzo's invasion and developing towards a neutral country. In terms of safety, it can be said to be relatively full. Now Naraku is confused whether to put the resurrection cocoon in the sea next to the Iron Kingdom or underground in the Iron Kingdom. Both the deep sea and the underground are even more inaccessible. Both have their own shortcomings. First of all, in the sea, Naraku is not sure about the density and durability of the resurrection cocoon. If it floats out easily in the water, it will definitely not be suitable. It will not feel good if it is corroded by seawater. The worst thing is that it would be even worse if it was eaten by some unlucky big fish. Since Naraku needs to think about how to get out of the deep sea safely after resurrection, he can't go too deep yet. In the end, even if it was in the sea, it didn't mean that no one could actually reach it and salvage it. This reminded Naraku of a certain Cleopatra, who was sleeping well in the sea but was fished out as a treasure. In comparison, the disadvantages of underground are much less. Friends who often bury corpses must know. People who often watch videos of others burying items must know that the most important things to pay attention to when burying things underground are 1. How to eliminate your own smell. 2. How to eliminate the smell of items. 3. The last one is how to make the soil where things are buried be the same as the surrounding soil. Naraku thought over and over again and decided to bury the resurrection cocoon underground. There were too many unknowns in the sea, and the most underground was crustal movements such as earthquakes. At most, he could be buried for a few years without any major displacement. Naraku searched alone in the Kingdom of Iron for a long time and finally found a truly inaccessible place. After he made some preparations, he covered up his smell. Later, we will use Earth style to dive deep underground. 10 meters, 20 meters, 40 meters, 80 meters, 160 meters, 320 meters, 640 meters. Naraku felt very uncomfortable after reaching this depth. Naraku put the soil around him into the system space. After that, they began to make resurrection cocoons underground. The method of making a resurrection cocoon is very simple. In fact, the only rare thing is the golden rotifer. Naraku looked at the rotifer in his hand. He carefully placed the rotifer in his hand and carefully observed every detail of it. The body of rotifers is golden yellow, and their chubby appearance reminds people of cute caterpillars, the high-protein kind. But its ferocious fangs and sharp claws reveal a sense of majesty and ferocity. Naraku gently stroked the body of the rotifer, feeling the power hidden under its hard shell. Naraku took a deep breath, cut his finger, and let the blood drip onto the body of the rotifer. The rotifer seemed to feel the breath of blood, and its originally quiet body began to tremble slightly. As the blood gradually penetrates into the rotifer's skin, its color becomes more vivid and eye-catching, as if it has been given life. Naraku was secretly surprised. He could feel that the rotifers were absorbing his blood and converting it into energy. This strange phenomenon made him curious about rotifers. Immediately afterwards, Naraku used his own soul power to extract it according to the secret method, and then slowly injected it into the body of the rotifer. The rotifer's reaction was extremely violent, and its body began to twist violently, trying to break free from Naraku's control. However, Naraku held the wheelworm tightly, preventing it from escaping. When Naraku's soul power was completely integrated into the rotifer suddenly stopped struggling and lay quietly in Naraku's hand. Naraku breathed a sigh of relief, knowing that he had successfully established contact with the rotifers. After that, Naraku slowly placed the wheel bug on the ground. The bug stuck to the soil, quickly turned into an earth color, and then slowly grew in size. It has changed to the size of a football and has not changed. Naraku felt a sense of security as he looked at the earth ball, which was no different from the earth next to it. Just like this, if Naraku didn't mark it himself and buried it with soil, and let him try it again, he wouldn't be able to find it, let alone others. But Naraku couldn't understand when he looked at such a big ball. How could a person get out of such a big ball if it were to be resurrected? Is it possible that this earth ball will continue to grow after the soul moves in? Just in case, Naraku could only cover the soil ball with the soil in the system space. Fortunately, the soil next to the hole Naraku made himself was relatively soft, otherwise he would have only left a flaw here. Afterwards, Naraku returned to the ground after confirming that there were no flaws. Unfortunately, Naraku did not have the ability to clear his memory, otherwise he would definitely delete his information about the location of the resurrection cocoon. Naraku, who returned to the land, ran to the capital of the Iron Kingdom again, and then used the dimensional phalanx to sense the mark previously reserved for Mifune. In just a moment, Naraku appeared in a house. Naraku then rang the bell in the room and waited quietly for Mifune's arrival. Mifune, who had awakened to the power of seeing and hearing, found out almost the moment the bell rang, and after explaining the left and right, Mifune walked quickly to this hidden room. Naraku watched Mifune close the window and take off his mask after entering the door, and said, "You move very quickly." Mifune immediately knelt down and saluted Naraku and said, "My lord, after I left Konoha, I was chased by the ninjas of Konoha. In that battle, I awakened the haki of seeing and hearing." After listening to Mifune's words, Naraku's eyes lit up, which meant that he could collect wool again. So he encouraged, "Mifune, I have great expectations for you. You are also my first real subordinate. In the future, you must practice your knowledge haki and arms haki. Coupled with your swordsmanship, you will definitely be able to the strongest swordsman in the entire ninja world." After saying that, Naraku helped Mifune up, and then Mifune also explained what he had done recently when he returned to the Kingdom of Iron. Basically, they used force to regain some samurai, and began to unite the forces of various samurai to prepare to fight Hanzo together. When Mifune said that his samurai force alone had 3,000 people, Naraku nodded with satisfaction. Although these 3,000 people are just trash to some people now, the future is uncertain. After listening to the work report of his subordinates, Naraku also felt very comfortable. No wonder his stupid leader used to like to ask his subordinates to make regular work reports. This feeling of getting something for nothing is so satisfying. Naraku cleared his throat and said seriously to Mifune, I will give you a few things next. Can you do it? Mifune said loyally, I will not give up even if I die. Naraku turned from seriousness to smile and said, these things are not so dangerous, but they are very important for the future of the Iron Kingdom. First, I want you to select 100 elites from the 3 Senju. These people will be of great use later, they will be your real arms. Second, I need you to collect the broken knives on the battlefield. Third, I will give you 10 Poseidon types. The body of this monster has certain benefits for training the body. 2 of them are yours, and the rest belong to the 100 people. Later, you will train like crazy, and you also need to select talents with real will and ability. Later, I will find a way to give them a weakened version of the domineering seeds. Can you do the above things? Mifune is naturally able to handle the above matters, and as Naraku's first official mission, Mifune also wants to perform well. Afterwards, Naraku put on a mask and went to a warehouse with Mifune. Naraku directly put 10 20-meter-long Poseidons in the warehouse. Because the capital of the Iron Kingdom is covered with ice and snow all year round, during the snow melting season every year, he can also rely on the previous ones. Stored ice continues to freeze. Even cold storage is saved. After Naraku explained a few more words, he was ready to return to Konoha. As he hurried on, he was thinking about the solution to the domineering seeds in his mind. In the future, the number of people will increase, and Naraku will not be able to rely solely on the domineering cells obtained from the lottery. He was thinking about how to make domineering seeds, and he had a guess. When Mifune's haki becomes stronger, he should be able to extract some haki cells directly from Mifune's body to create haki seeds. This may affect the upper limit, but it is also a huge improvement for the samurai. Later, he can re-empower the truly outstanding talents with real domineering seeds. As for the Poseidon category, Naraku can only say that he can't finish it at all. The average whale shark on Earth is about 20 meters long and can weigh up to 45 tons. The muscle density of those Poseidon species is even more exaggerated than that of whale sharks, and their weight can reach 100 tons. Humans on Earth are generally suitable to eat less than 300 grams of meat a day. Even if these people eat 1 kilogram of Poseidon a day, it will take 10 people to eat it for 27 years. The Poseidon class in Naraku's hands is calculated in thousands. If the Poseidon class didn't have some strategic significance, Naraku would have thought about opening a barbecue restaurant in Konoha. However, just as Naraku was rushing to the border of the Kingdom of Iron, he suddenly felt a weak breath. He turned around and looked warily, only to see a few miscellaneous fish ninjas quietly approaching him. These miscellaneous fish ninjas obviously came to attack Naraku, but they did not realize that they had been noticed by Naraku. The corners of Naraku's mouth raised slightly, revealing a disdainful smile. He easily dodged several shurikens thrown by the miscellaneous fish, and then muttered, 9 mountains and 8 seas are one world, and thousands of worlds are gathered into small thousand worlds. This world is multiplied by 3, and there is no self. Who, 1, 3,000, thousand worlds. At first, the miscellaneous fish didn't care about what Naraku said, and even thought it was a bit ridiculous. But when they discovered that Naraku could easily dodge all their long-range attacks by chanting the names of his moves, they began to feel fear. Because they clearly know that only masters of swordsmanship can evade their attacks so easily. Just when the miscellaneous fish were trying to escape, Naraku's voice sounded again. This time, his tone became more serious and solemn. As he finished speaking, a powerful sword energy was released from his sword. This sword energy carries unparalleled chakra and armed color domineering energy. 3-range shinobi can't resist such an attack at all. Their eyes widened and they watched in horror as the sword energy attacked them. However, it was already too late. The sword energy hit them instantly, cutting them into 6 halves. Naraku stood there, the sword in his hand trembling slightly. He looked at the corpse on the ground indifferently, feeling as cold as if he had been killing fish in RT Mart for 10 years. Naraku, who stood for a while, was satisfied with the swordsman's addiction, but unfortunately no new fish came to seek death. Then there will definitely be people who are curious about when Naraku learned the Great Thousand Worlds. In fact, he just used his own chakra and armed colors to use Mifune's swordsmanship, sky-splitting slash. Naraku could only say, "Mifune, please work hard. When you master the art of swordsmanship one day, he might actually be able to use some of Zoro's moves." Now Naraku is faced with a choice. The arrival of Rain Shinobi's reconnaissance team shows that Rain Shinobi is most likely preparing to directly invade the Kingdom of Iron, and Sancho Hanzo may be on the way. He can now return to Konoha and let Mifune fight Sancho Hanzo alone, and then hope that Sancho Hanzo's mercy will save Mifune's life. Also, he was holding the battle in the dark, unwilling to let Mifune go as long as Sanjiao Hanzang was in disgrace. He directly mentioned, haunted by evil spirits, and silenced him. In the end, Naraku returned and rushed to the capital of the Iron Kingdom. He had no choice but to invest so much. He would never allow Mifune to die so easily. This was the initial stage of his business. Chapter 71. Mifune. Hanzo must be here. I saw Rain Shinobi at the border of Iron Country. These Rain Shinobi also attacked directly without any thought of talking. Naraku said quickly after seeing Mifune again. What, my lord, this time I have to risk my life for the Kingdom of Iron. I hope you will allow me. As long as I don't die in battle, I will always serve your lord. Mifune sincerely requested. Naraku suddenly laughed. Ha ha ha. Ha ha ha. Mifune looked at Naraku's Uchiha with some confusion and laughed wildly. After laughing, Naraku said to Mifune, Mifune, do I have this much magnanimity in front of you? Mifune, I only value your loyalty and I am willing to accept you as my subordinate. So don't worry that I will refuse. Don't worry, in my opinion. This invasion of Sancho Hanzo is more of a deterrent. You fight him with all your strength, no matter the final outcome, if I will help you. Let me hold the battle for you, even Hanzo the Sancho fish can't kill you. I said so. And the current Sancho Hanzo is not the kind of person who kills people. Next, give me an identity to come forward. Quote. Mifune was also very moved when he heard Naraku's permission, and Naraku's confident analysis in his spoken words also relieved Mifune's somewhat panic. Naraku's guarantee is his solid backing, and he is prepared to fight hard for the Kingdom of Iron this time. He thought that his master was always hiding his secrets, and if he revealed a little bit, he could become the strongest blacksmith in the ninja world. His true abilities must also be very powerful. Maybe Mifune could really face Sancho Hanzo, the ninja demigod, and escape unscathed. Mifune said without thinking. My lord, next I will tell everyone that you are a military advisor. Do you think that's okay? Naraku didn't expect that the first time he would lead others would be as a military advisor. That is to say, there was no feather fan now, otherwise he could also experience a wave of feather fan scarves. Then Naraku watched Mifune arrange his men, unite his allies, and assemble the army. There is no shortage of those who are greedy for life and fear of death in the ninja world, and there is no shortage of people who are daring. After Mifune passed on the news of the invasion led by Sancho Hanzo. Some people are too timid to go forward, and some are reckless and even unwilling to join forces with the alliance. He led the team and went up to prepare for unparalleled achievements. As time went by, different samurai teams were integrated into the larger team one by one. But since this team is spontaneous, no one obeys anyone. In the end, Mifune was appointed as the temporary leader due to his widely known benevolence and strength. A group of warriors don't have any big tactics, plus there are many people. They rushed to the border in a hurry. In fact, with the strength of the Iron Country samurai, they might not be able to compete with the people of Rain Shinobi Village. But Rain Shinobi Village has Hanzo, a supermodel character. Hanzo the Sancho fish is so terrible. Everyone is dead. Everyone was poisoned and killed. A samurai who threw off his armor ran towards the crowd crazily. People who were on their way couldn't help but feel their hearts sinking when they heard the news. They still underestimated the power of ninjas. Although the brave men who went up to a before were not the strongest warriors in the Iron Kingdom, they were still considered to be above average. It didn't take long for them to be almost wiped out. I have to say it's bad news. Mifune saw that his morale was a little low, and it seemed that some people were preparing to run away. He also said in a deep voice, if I encounter Sancho Hanzo, I am willing to fight alone. You only need to deal with Rain Shinobi. Mifune's words calmed everyone's hearts to a certain extent. Sanshoyu Hanzo looked at the crowded team of samurai, which made him a little surprised. Because as far as he knew, the warriors of the Iron Kingdom basically refused to obey anyone and there were serious internal conflicts. Now they are actually united. He saw the leader Mifune at a glance, and wondered what was special about the samurai in front of him. Are you going to come together or one by one? Hanzo said contemptuously to the enemy. It was as if what was standing in front of him was not tens of thousands of enemies but a swarm of ants. In fact, for Hanzo, miscellaneous fish really have little effect on him, that is, his Sansho fish has just finished spitting out the poison. Otherwise, summoning the Sansho fish and spitting poison can kill a large area. Therefore, even if he kills too fiercely and is surrounded by the enemy alone, he is not afraid at all. No one dared to stand up after listening to Hanzo's words. If there wasn't a sense of security due to the large number of people, they might have been ready to run away. In the eyes of these samurai, the era of samurai has long passed, and now is the era of ninjas. Mifune slowly walked out of the team, came to Hanzo and said, Master Hanzo. I, the warrior of the Kingdom of Iron, Mifune, will fight with you. Hanzo couldn't help but admire this man's courage. At this time, Hanzo had not yet turned into a coward who was greedy for life and afraid of death decades later. His main purpose in launching the war was also for the stability of the Rain country and his own ambitions. Then let's start. Although Hanzo wanted to say something, the characteristic of the ninja world is that you have to fight first, and then you can reason with him after the fight. People who die directly are not qualified to reason. Mifune also slowly pulled out his sword, Lake Toya. Hanzo couldn't help but be a little surprised when he saw that Mifune had a wooden sword in his hand. It also caused discussion among some members of the samurai team. You look down on me. Hanzo was slightly angry. Mifune touched the Toya lake in his hand and said, This is not a simple wooden sword. This is my strongest weapon. Hanzo looked at Mifune's unpretentious eyes, and he noticed that the surface of Lake Toya just now seemed to have turned black like it was covered with steel, so he also put on a posture. Both of them seemed to be a little impatient, and they both took the posture of drawing their swords, as if they were ready to attribute this battle to one sword. Swordsmanship. Aye. Swordsmanship. Aye. The two of them used their respective aye-slashes in unison. The sickle Hanzo held was even coated with poison. There was a fierce collision between the two weapons. As a demigod in the ninja world, Hanzo's chakra control and swordsmanship are at their peak, and the amount of chakra exceeds Mifune's. Mifune has also spent many years honing his body and sword skills, although he is not as good as Hanzo in terms of reaction and insight. But he made up for this shortcoming by relying on his domineering power, and even had a slight advantage in this regard. The blessing of Mifune's armed color haki makes up for the shortcomings of chakra. Finally, there is a competition between the weapons of the two. Even if the weapon in Hanzo's hand is an excellent weapon with a lot of chakra metal attached, he is just a younger brother in front of Lake Toya, which is completely made of 10,000 years of Vajra wood. In just an instant, the two of them moved behind each other. This time Mifune fell to the ground without bleeding, and Hanzo saw that the weapon in his hand that had accompanied him in battles for many years had undergone obvious deformation, and a big question mark appeared above his head. What is the weapon in your hand? Hanzo, who was full of questions, finally couldn't help asking. He really couldn't understand why the wooden sword was so powerful. What's more, this wooden knife will automatically turn iron color. At this time, Hanzo also thought about the rumors he had heard in the past year about a forging master in Konoha. Some of the weapons forged by that forging master were a bit tricky even for him. This sword is called Lake Toya. As for more information, I'm sorry I can't tell you. Mifune once again took a stance towards Hanzo. He planned to cut off the side in Hanzo's hand this time. In fact, if there was only ordinary iron, he could cut it off easily. But this iron is in Hanzo's hand. Due to the original owner's force-removing skills and the blessing of chakra, it is finally a weapon. It's not simple in itself. This made it much more difficult for Mifune to cut off, otherwise Hanzo might have been injured by the knife just now. Regarding ninjutsu, Mifune is not worthy of carrying Hanzo's shoes. But when it comes to swordsmanship, Mifune is confident that he can give Hanzo a run for his money. Mifune and Hanzo fought together again, stemming from the last sword fight. Hanzo showed more care for his weapons. Mifune's sword skills have been refined over time, and with the blessing of two-color domineering, there are no flaws. The samurai nearby saw that Mifune was able to fight like this with the legendary ninja demigod, and they couldn't help but cheer for Mifune. Mifune-sama. Well done. Mifune-sama. You are very energetic. Mifune-sama. No points lost. And powerful samurai, especially samurai who have competed with Mifune before. I found that Mifune was different from before, whether it was his reaction that was much stronger than before, or the blackened fist in his hand. It all shows that Mifune seems to have mastered some methods that don't seem like ninjutsu. After fighting for a while, Hanzo found that conventional moves could not defeat the enemy in front of him at all, and he felt that Mifune's moves were a bit wrong. Sometimes his slashes were not fully released, and Mifune began to parry. Hanzo prepares to display his unique swordsmanship, chain scythe double strike. He planned to use the chain on Mifune to wrap around Lake Toya, and then use the sickle to slash Mifune from top to bottom. Something that shocked everyone happened. Mifune was not afraid of Hanzo's chains. He held his breath and struck the chains with all his strength. Directly split the chain attached to Hanzo's side in half. Then Mifune parried Hanzo's full-strength slash at extremely fast speed. An even more coincidental thing happened. This may also be the result of Hanzo's full-strength chopping, and the sickle in Hanzo's hand was completely disconnected. Right now, Mifune seized this hard-won opportunity and used all his strength to strike at Hanzo with his weapon broken. It's a pity that Hanzo, as a demigod in the ninja world, relies not only on swordsmanship and Sanshou fish, but also on water style, which reaches the pinnacle of ordinary ninjas. It is even said in the Book of Masters that Hanzo is good at water-style ninjutsu. Wearing a breathing mask, he can move freely in the water. His control over water style is unsurpassed by anyone. The art of water teleportation. Hanzo formed a seal with one hand and turned himself into a puddle of water to avoid Mifune's attack. At this time, Hanzo had completely given up on defeating Mifune with swordsmanship alone, and Hanzo quickly formed seals as he distanced himself. Water style. Who will build the dam? Hanzo's version of the Big Bang water shockwave appeared. Hanzo violently spewed out waves of water from his mouth in an attempt to form a huge ellipsoid-shaped water prison to imprison the enemy. In front of this terrifying water style, the samurai were washed to pieces, even Mifune. He could only hold the Toya Lake in his hand tightly and keep moving quickly towards the upper reaches of the water. But it was this terrifying current that affected his judgment. Hanzo suddenly appeared in front of Mifune and slashed at him. Mifune narrowly blocked the blow and quickly counterattacked. After all, Hanzo only had a broken sickle in his hand now, but when Mifune slashed Hanzo's body, Hanzo turned into a puddle of water. It turned out that this was Hanzo's water body, but the real Hanzo was hidden in the water and slashed at Mifune with a knife. Mifune was aware of what he was seeing but had no time to react, as Mifune was cut with a large gash on his back. This battle declared Mifune's defeat. The fallen Mifune thought that if his knowledge or weaponry were stronger, maybe this battle would have a different outcome. It's a pity that his path ended here. Mifune did not blame Naraku for not saving him, but took a look at Naraku. What I was thinking was, I can no longer serve my lord in the future. Mifune looked at Lake Toya in his hand and said, people are like swords. So I'm just a slow, dull knife. I'm sorry, Lake Toya. Hanzo felt that although this battle was a little more chaotic, it could be regarded as fulfilling its purpose of deterrence. And he admired Mifune very much. His victory just now was a bit of a sneak attack. But this is ninja. Hanzo began to preach before the execution. The end of a person is not death, but when he loses his faith. Even if you die on the spot, it is not a dull knife. I will declare to the world that you are a hero. And just talking about swordsmanship, I, Sanshoyu Hanzo, am willing to call you the strongest in the Iron Kingdom. I hope to exchange my death for a promise from you. Mifune slowly requested. Hanzo said expressionlessly, say, don't kill my companions. Mifune thought to himself, this may be the last thing he can do as a subordinate. This sentence directly penetrated Hanzo's heart, and he decided not to kill Mifune in front of him. He slowly walked towards Mifune, took out the antidote, and said, whether a person has faith cannot be easily seen. Some things can only be seen in battle. I haven't seen people like you for a long time. This time I chose to let you go. Hanzo then fed Mifune the antidote. It can be said that Hanzo was still a bit idealistic at this time. Unfortunately, after he fought again and again but could not see the hope of peace, coupled with the corrosion of time, the belief of this ninja demigod would eventually be completely broken down. Hanzo then left the battlefield directly. Before leaving, he glanced at the masked man. Naraku has been standing next to him. He didn't know if it was his illusion, but he always felt that the person in front of him was unusual. Under his water style, he could actually stay in place. Those miscellaneous fish warriors have long been washed away, and the Naraku in front of him can bring him a sense of fatal threat. He shook his head. Who could actually bring a sense of threat to him, a demigod in the ninja world? Naraku was not afraid of Hanzo, but walked over and helped Mifune up, and then disappeared in an instant. Hanzo's eyes widened. Naraku's terrifying speed may be a rare space in the ninja world. Ninjutsu. Mifune, who returned to his residence safely, couldn't help but admire Naraku's ingenuity, and he actually survived Hanzo's hands. But facing the demigod Mifune was still a little confused. Can he really defeat such a terrifying ninja in the future? Mifune knew in his heart that Hanzo did not use his full strength in this battle. When Naraku saw Mifune silent, he thought he was a little autistic after being beaten. So he comforted him. Mifune does not need to be confused by the failure of this battle. As long as your knowledge and armament are at a high level, you may not be unable to fight Hanzo in full head-on. And if your knowledge color and weapon color are at the top level, then you can defeat even the demigods of the ninja world. As Naraku finished speaking, Mifune's confusion was dispelled. Yes, he has an almost invincible path at his feet. Maybe one day he can really become the best swordsman in the ninja world through his own efforts. And then he will be even more able to help his lord. Naraku said a few more words and left the Kingdom of Iron. Since he pressed many time and space markers on the space on the way here, he returned very quickly. With Hanzo's propaganda, the entire ninja world began to know Mifune, the #1 swordsman in the Iron Kingdom. Because when Mifune fought with Hanzo, the black sword in his hand cut off Hanzo's weapon several times, and Mifune finally obtained he got the title of Black Knife. Mifune also relied on the strong reputation brought by the battle to protect the country and the strength of the strongest swordsman in the Iron Kingdom to begin to recruit his subordinates more extensively and eliminate enemies. A figure suddenly appeared in Naraku's forging room. It was Naraku who was rushing back quickly relying on the dimensional phalanx. Naraku, who had just returned to the forging room, hurriedly sat down and rested for a while. The longest distance of the dimensional square induction mark is only 5 kilometers, and this long-distance transmission consumes more chakra than short-distance transmission. But the effect was obvious. He had to travel a long distance, but it only took him an hour to get back. This was because he spent a lot of time in transit and resting. After taking a rest, Naraku opened a new weapon reward. Bite. Mifune's use of Lake Toya has reached the intermediate level, and the talent copy is activated, intermediate level of knowledge, color and domineering. Bite. Mifune's use of domineering seeds has reached the intermediate level, and the talent is copied and activated, intermediate armed color domineering. Naraku once again experienced the pleasure of armed color entering his body. Naraku once again looked at the giant thing that was harder and darker than before, and he felt a sense of satisfaction in his heart. And with the injection of intermediate haki, Naraku felt that his 5 senses seemed to have become stronger. After all, the essence of haki is haki that can sharpen a person's 5 senses and derive super sense. It can detect the breath and emotional changes of surrounding creatures. It can also be used to predict and avoid danger. But when Naraku opened the Sharingan, he found that relying on the haki of insight, his Sharingan's insight seemed to have become stronger. Naraku thought that maybe one day his Sharingan could have the terrifying effect of foreseeing the future when paired with the observation color. After a while, Naraku remembered what Danzo had told him before. He needed to use Senju Hashirama's cells to give Danzo the entire weapon. Naraku first thought of his own interests, and he was ready to enrich his own pockets. The only weapons he can forge immediately are Stone Ghostface and Banlifei Mastama. Stone Ghostface seems to have some compatibility with Hashirama cells. After all, they are both immortal. Originally, Naraku was thinking of combining the stone ghost face with Biruhu's ghost Mara technique, and finally made a mask that could swallow the blood successor limit infinitely. But it was only when he was chatting with Tsunade that he learned that Beiliuhu had defected a long time ago, and he still didn't know where he was doing scientific research. Although Naraku didn't know when Beiliuhu defected, he still knew when Beiliuhu caused trouble. Beiliuhu was killed by Naruto's Rasengan Shuriken. So without additional help, I don't know how long it will take for Biruhu to fully develop the Onamera no Jutsu. At this time, Naraku didn't have time to wait anyway, so he planned to forge the Stone Ghost Face Plus quickly. Just give Stone Ghost Noodles some Hashirama cells and Sharingan. Let's see what beautiful effects the new Stone Ghost Noodles will have. Now Hashirama has cells, but Sharingan Naraku doesn't. He can't detach his eyes to forge, and he's not willing to let Naraku kill the Uchiha clan. So after thinking about it, Naraku felt that he still had to rely on Danzo-sama for this matter. I have to say that throughout the Hokage Ninja series, Shimura Danzo is definitely a well-known angel investor. He wants money for money, equipment for equipment, and data for data. He conducts scientific research under Danzo, and Danzo can handle any contraband. You can even use the semi-finished product to experiment on Danzo. The Sharingan on Danzo's arm must have been experimented on by Orochimaru. Otherwise, why didn't he use it himself? He felt that the technology was immature and was just used to deceive investors. Naraku came to Danzo's research room and forging room specially prepared for him. Naraku looked at the Hashirama cells in front of him. To be precise, the thing in front of him was cultivated using Hashirama cells. Second generation Hashirama cells. Naraku decided on the forging method after thinking for a moment. Since the material was not particularly precious, he could use this forging as an experiment. He will not waste too much Auria steel. This time, his goal is to create a vassal that is close to the Taigu. The main reason is that he has no other special dangerous species that are particularly suitable for this second generation Hashirama cell, so I was ready to randomly try a dangerous species with wood attribute. In this case, even if he invested a lot of Auria steel, he might just create a particularly rubbish Taigu or even a vassal. Now Naraku has begun to consciously not waste Oliha steel. He feels that if he can forge an S-level weapon, his strength may be greatly improved, and maybe the system can also be upgraded accordingly. He is still a junior member now. He plans to get the original Hashirama cells later and then go all out to build a full body armor. This time it will be the entire breastplate. With the blessing of seeing and hearing, Naraku sensed it, and sure enough he found a sense of peeping on the ceiling. So Naraku pretended to take out an ordinary dangerous species with a wood attribute from his seal scroll, and then put Hashirama cells directly into the body of the dangerous species. Naraku relied on the microscope to observe the tissue surrounding the Hashirama cells of the dangerous species. He found that the Hashirama cells seemed to particularly like the meat of this dangerous species. They were using this excellent culture medium to slowly proliferate and continuously erode the dangerous species. It is foreseeable that this process will take some time. So Naraku began to prepare other work first. Naraku once again pretended to take out a piece of Oliha steel and 20 kilograms of fine iron from the scroll. Several clones were separated into molten iron, while he himself was a molten Oliha steel. Since fine iron is easier to melt than Oliha steel, the clones quickly melted the fine iron, and then several clones worked together to shape the fine iron into the shape of a breastplate. Naraku, who had melted the Auria steel, continued to wait for Hashirama's cells to finish eroding the dangerous species. Finally, a few hours later, Naraku found through microscopic examination that Hashirama's cells had completely eroded the dangerous species in front of him. So he hurriedly used the melted Oliha steel as ink to carve the curse mark on the dangerous species. With his previous experience in creating, haunted by evil spirits, Naraku's carving speed was very fast, and he completed the carving in only 10 minutes. Accompanied by Naraku's slow chanting spell, the dangerous species turned into a black liquid, and Naraku then used this black liquid to slowly draw it on the breastplate. As the last drop of biological essence fell, the breastplate in front of him seemed to emit a dark green light, which also marked that the breastplate had been completely forged. Naraku has already thought of a name for this chest armor. Let's call it the invigorating armor. Naraku originally built it in the shape of the invigorating armor in League of Legends. Bite. Congratulations to the blacksmith for forging an A pseudo-level weapon and inspiring armor. Naraku's routine is to check the properties of this belt. Inspiring armor. A pseudo-level breastplate. This breastplate uses a special dangerous species of cell-eroding wood attribute as biological raw material, and also uses Oliha steel and refined iron. Standard armor type Taigu secret techniques were used in the forging process. It took 3 hours to forge. Unfortunately, due to the particularity of biological raw materials, this breastplate has the strength of a Taigu weapon, but it also has requirements and side effects that far exceed those of ordinary Taigu weapons. This breastplate can be freely adjusted in size, has tough and recovery properties, and has a strong ability to conduct chakra. Skills. 1. Infinite vitality. Basic life recovery is increased by 100%. All healing effects you receive are increased by 100%, and chakra recovery speed is increased by 100%. 2. Wood style. Master the ability of wood style to a certain extent. Debuff. 1. Must have chakra with 2 attributes of water and earth. 2. Mild use will accelerate cell aging, and excessive use will directly reduce lifespan. 3. Exceeding the full capacity of the breastplate may have stronger side effects. Naraku looked at the breastplate in front of him. He really didn't expect such an unexpected surprise. Apart from the greater side effects, the breastplate in front of him can be said to be fully capable of touching some Taigu. He was now looking forward more and more to what he could forge if Danzo gave him the real Hashirama cells. But no matter what, these cells were extracted from Hashirama's dead body. If we go one step further, when Senju Hashirama was alive, what was the state of his cells? Naraku thought that if Hashirama was alive, his status as Senju Hashirama's grandson-in-law would not be too much. It can only be said that it is a pity. Not long after Naraku had love, a root suddenly appeared in front of Naraku. Naraku couldn't help but sneered in his heart. These people were too ignorant to conceal their surveillance. They really regarded themselves as a 9-year-old child. He simply ignored him at all. Naraku walked up to Danzo with the newly forged inspirational armor, and Danzo's old face turned into a chrysanthemum. Danzo pretended to be very friendly and said to Naraku, "Little Naraku, what good things did you forge this time?" Naraku almost vomited when he heard Danzo's words. This incident directly made Naraku feel that his acting skills need to be further improved in the future. This armor is considered a Taigu-level weapon. It has excellent defense. At the same time, the person wearing it can also increase the life recovery ability, treatment effect, and chakra recovery ability. There is another function in the cell meat block. I should have kept it. I don't know what the abilities of that piece of meat with terrifying vitality are. Naraku said with a proud tone. While mentioning the armor's abilities, he didn't mention the side effects at all. Listening to Naraku's words, Danzo had a tendency to go completely crazy, and his whole body began to tremble. Danzo thought to himself, could it be? I am about to obtain the power of first Hokage's wood style. Sarutobi Hiruzen, I think your position as Hokage has come to an end. I will use the power of first generation wood style to unify the ninja world 5 big village. Sarutobi Hiruzen, who was at work at this time, sneezed again. Naraku looked at Danzo speechlessly, as if he was having an epileptic fit, but he couldn't laugh, which made him feel a little uncomfortable. After completing YY, Danzo suddenly realized that he needed to find someone to test whether Naraku's words were true, and he had a more evil plan to implement. With Naraku's inner hope, Danzo was ready to directly take the armor for experiments. But I don't know if Danzo didn't believe Naraku or if he still had some sense in the face of power. Danzo suddenly stopped. Calling the 2 ninjas on the side to experiment, he directly ordered one of the ninjas who happened to have the attributes of water and earth to put on the inspiring armor, and then ordered them to fight. The 2 root ninjas were extremely fierce, after using the shurikens that ninjas usually used to fight. The 2 quickly started fighting in close combat, as if their strength was almost the same. The 2 couldn't tell the difference by relying on physical skills alone, so the 2 began to use ninjutsu. Fire style Fire Dragon Bullet. One of the root ninjas spits out a beam of fire with a burning effect from his mouth. Water style Water Barrier. Another ninja's seal creates a rising wall of water from bottom to top. As the flames fell on the water wall, they were extinguished. Judging from these two ninjutsu, the basic ninjas still have certain strength. The two people in front of them at least have the strength of special Jonin. Due to the small gap, the two completely fell into a war of attrition. As the war of attrition progressed, the ninja wearing the amplitude armor began to show his advantage. The invigorating armor gives him powerful chakra recovery, penultimate injury recovery and excellent defense. This caused his opponents who were originally equally powerful to gradually fall into trouble. In the end, the ninja wearing the amplitude armor forced his opponent into a desperate situation, and he defeated the opponent with an absolute advantage. Naraku looked at the seriously injured Genbu ninja who fell to the ground, and couldn't help but admire Danzo's brainwashing ability. This Genbu organization looked like a cult, and they were willing to risk their lives even though they were just competing. But what Danzo wanted to see was not this result. He ordered the victorious ninja, inject earth attribute chakra and water attribute chakra into the armor and try to attack forward. As the earth style and water style chakra were injected into the uplifting armor, the root ninja seemed to feel a strange new power being fused, and he subconsciously directed this power down his arm. A surprising thing happened. A tree grew out of the ninja arm along the roots, and finally penetrated into the ground. Seeing this, Danzo couldn't hide it anymore and laughed loudly. Ha ha ha, ha ha ha. Naraku couldn't help but feel a sense of frustration welling up in his heart when he saw that Shimura Danzo, a foreigner, actually smiled more like Uchiha than himself. Naraku thought for a few seconds, figuring out how to pretend to be more like him. Then he started to shout as if he was mentally retarded, the power of wood style. Danzo-sama, what on earth was the piece of meat you gave me before? Naraku showed innocent and suspicious eyes, and Danzo also said with a sneer, the material you used before was the cells of first Hokage Senju Hashirama. How about it? Are you going to tell Sarutobi Hiruzen? Or Tsunade? Quote. Naraku pretended to show a hint of fear, his body trembling slightly. Danzo-sama, this is wrong, we should not use Shodai's remains to forge weapons. Danzo sneered. It was you who used Shodai's body to forge weapons. Not me. Naraku, if this news gets out, the entire village will despise you. Your favorite teacher, Tsunade, will also hate you. Even the bond between the comatose Nezuki and you will be broken. All the ninjas you know will stay away from you, and even your seemingly amiable third generation, Sarutobi Hiruzen, will put you in jail. No, I didn't know that piece of meat was Shodai's cell. It was you. You deceived me. Naraku thought about all the angry things in his life and said angrily to Danzo. Danzo said expressionlessly, but I didn't say that it wasn't Shodai's cell. It was you. It was your greedy Uchiha who was devoured by desire and ended up like this, and you have to give evidence for everything. That belt, the armor with the power of wood style, is the proof of your desire. Naraku thought to himself, dog, Danzo actually CPU me. Naraku rushed towards the amplitude armor and said, then I will destroy this armor. Although Danzo didn't think Naraku had the ability to destroy the armor, he still knocked Naraku to the ground. He also rubbed the numb fists inside his sleeves and thought, the bones of this kid Uchiha are really hard. Did this kid put some iron blocks on his body? Danzo looked at Naraku, who was hiding his face on the ground and crying, and felt that the atmosphere was almost over. He said, Naraku, do you think I am a bad person? In fact, I am doing this all for Konoha. Ninja villages in various major countries are now eager to try to subvert Konoha. I am doing this for Konoha. You only see the prosperity of Konoha. But what you can't see is the darkness under Konoha. It is the existence of the roots that allows Konoha, a big tree, to grow vigorously. Naraku, you have two choices now. One is to tell everything, and then you will be judged and killed from the root. Die in people's contempt. Another one is to join the roots and work for me. Be an unsung hero for the prosperity and development of Konoha. Choose. Danzo became more and more excited as he talked. Naraku felt tingling in his heart, but when he raised his head outwardly, there were still tears on his face that had just been caused by using chakra to stimulate the tear ducts. He simply said, Danzo-sama, can I really be an unknown hero? Danzo smiled like he was kidnapping a child and said, yes. Of course, and I will fully support your forging. As long as the materials available in the ninja world, no matter what they are, I can get them for you. Naraku. Okay, Danzo-sama. Then I will join the roots from now on. All ninjas at the root have the Tongue-Bane seal to protect information. I won't add what you say. But be sure to keep it secret. Otherwise, Danzo threatened again. Naraku hurriedly said. Danzo-sama, no. I will definitely protect the secret. Danzo then asked Naraku if there was anything else he needed to add to the energizing armor. Naraku's eyes lit up, and the opportunity finally came. Danzo-sama, the power of wood style that is simply injected with chakra now is too weak, consumes a lot of energy and the release speed is not fast. Do you have wood style ninjutsu here? I'm trying to see if I can include ninjutsu as a curse seal. In this way, even if the armor user does not know wood style, he can use chakra quickly and economically. Quote. Danzo glanced at Naraku suspiciously. He felt that Naraku's request seemed a bit wrong. But he thought that he had two handles on Naraku, so he decided to give Naraku some wood style ninjutsu. Naraku looked at the wood style cutting technique, wood style wood stand, wood style wood clone, wood style great forest technique, and wood style wood locking wall that Danzo gave him. On the surface, he looked very excited, but in fact, he felt numb in his heart. Danzo was too stingy. What was given? What about deep forest bloom? What about wooden golem's art? What about wooden dragon's art? What about Zenju, the Buddha on the top? Naraku thought that he would have to give up other ways to obtain wood style in the future. And although the wood style given by Danzo was not particularly strong, Naraku's current body can master the power of intermediate wood style. It really gave him a wooden he can't master golem techniques or anything like that. Danzo was in a different mood. After being fooled by him, Naraku didn't care that the armor was made of Hashirama cells, and looked at the wood style ninjutsu with joy. I couldn't help but feel contempt in my heart. The teacher was right, the Uchiha clan is indeed inherently evil. However, the double standard Danzo is not critical of his evil behavior at all. Out of caution, Danzo no longer allowed Naraku to take away the armor. He planned to directly start wearing the armor to learn wood style. As for the improvement, Naraku said, it can only be transformed when he uses the armor. Naraku thought to himself, use it, use it. Who can use it better than you? I hope you won't kneel in front of Laozi when you are about to die. Naraku later went back on the grounds of research. When Naraku returned home, he found that there was another talent reward, so he quickly accepted it. Bite. A 15's use of the invigorating armor has reached the primary level, and the talent is copied and activated, Water Style Water Barrier Mastery. Naraku couldn't help but sigh. Ordinary ninjas really don't have much to offer. It seems that in the future, weapons will have to be handed over to the strong. When will Naraku, a weakling like him, be able to dominate the ninja world with just these weaklings? Become a big boy who loves to laugh. Naraku, who was preparing to practice ninjutsu in a hidden forest, suddenly slapped his head. He seemed to have forgotten to ask for payment from Danzo. Although he was forced to forge by Danzo, this behavior is a bit like being prostituted for nothing after being held by someone. But now that he has joined the root, he can be considered one of his own, so this shouldn't be a waste of time. But Danzo, this old guy, doesn't seem like a good person, so I don't know if he can get his salary. But if the old thief Danzo doesn't give it to him, then Naraku is going to take it for himself. After thinking for a while, Naraku turned his attention to wood style. Naraku spread several wood style scrolls on the ground one after another. He plans to learn them one by one. He must be able to master these ninjutsu easily with his current wood style talent. The first is Brother Tuzi's favorite signature wood style, the art of cutting. The technique of cutting is to grow wooden thorns from the arms, insert them into the enemy to perform a piercing attack. After piercing the enemy's body, the user consumes his own chakra to allow the wood style to continue to grow after being hit, and finally pierce the enemy's internal organs, causing the enemy's death. The overall effect can be said to be too brutal. In addition, the way Tokoko performs it, after mastering this ninjutsu, he can start at 0 frames without the need for seals, which is a big advantage. This last ninjutsu can not only be used as a melee attack, but can also be used as a long-range attack. That is to use the wood-style chakra to condense a wooden thorn and then project it at the enemy. As long as the wooden thorns are inserted into the enemy's body, they can form a seal remotely and control the rapid growth of the wooden thorns in the enemy's body. It completely makes up for the shortcoming that ordinary puncture damage may not kill people, eliminating the trouble of additional last hits. After Naraku finished reading the ninjutsu scroll, he started to try it. He pressed the seals on the scroll a few times carefully, then raised his right arm and stretched it forward, and saw many long wooden thorns growing out of Naraku's arm. He stabbed straight towards the big tree in front of Naraku. The wooden thorns quickly penetrated the big tree in front of him, as Naraku's chakra poured into it. Eventually, the thorns grew out of the tree in a radial pattern. It may be because this technique is simple, or it may be that Naraku's wood-style talent level is relatively high. Naraku only practiced a few times and was able to use this ninjutsu at 0 frames. Later, Naraku tried another long-range attack, condensing a wooden spear and throwing it directly from a distance. Then the spear instantly pierced the unlucky tree. Naraku then formed a seal to activate the chakra in the spear. The wooden thorns inside instantly pierced the tree. The remaining ninjutsu have been used by Yamato in the original work, and they are all considered to be relatively practical ninjutsu. Wood-style wood-locking wall, defense ninjutsu, a row of wooden pillars bent from the ground to form an arch to protect itself. Compared with water-style defense ninjutsu, this ninjutsu has stronger defense and wider restraint range. In fact, logically speaking, wood-style should be restrained by fire-style, but the power of wood-style in Hokage comes from the sacred tree, so it has the property of absorbing chakra, so wood-style is very restrained by most ninjutsu. In addition, the setting in Hokage is wood-style equals earth-style plus water-style, so wood-style is a bit more restrained than fire-style. Finally, as long as the amount of chakra is large enough, steel can be hardened even with restraint. The second ninjutsu is the wood-style Great Forest technique. This ninjutsu extends multiple thicker wooden pieces from the arms to capture the enemy. It can also be used as a defensive ninjutsu in emergencies, and Yamato used it to protect Naruto. The next wood clone and wood substitute can be said to be the plus version of shadow clone and substitute. For example, wood clone is more difficult to identify than shadow clone. Although its combat capabilities are not as good as those of its original counterpart, it is not as broken as a shadow clone. Moreover, when the clone is released, it can instantly transform into branches to entangle or attack enemies. There is nothing good to say about the wooden double. It replaces oneself with a wooden double at the moment of being attacked. Compared with the ordinary double technique, it is more convenient to cast and less likely to be seen through by the enemy. After half a day, Naraku has mastered all 5 wood-style ninjutsu. After practicing wood-style, Naraku feels that he is terrifyingly strong. He even wants to challenge a certain Tang Shenhuang who controls plant-based escape techniques across borders. Looking at the messy scene, Naraku also ignored the warning of the police station director and used fire style in the forest of another world to eliminate the traces of his previous use of wood style. Looking at the nearly roasted scene, Naraku released water style to put out the fire. Naraku thought for a moment and decided to forge the last Taigu Wanlifei Mastama that he could forge immediately. As long as this is completed, Naraku can have solid wings. Even the ability to fly is very rare in the ninja world, not to mention the ability to fly freely and flexibly, so this Taigu is quite practical. The purpose of forging this imperial weapon is to kill the flying feathered beast. Naraku plans to directly arrange the 4 purple flame formation, and we will see where it flies when the time comes. Naraku found 4 of his subordinates, Uchiha, Ja Shin, Ja Quan, Ja Chi, and Ja Zero. Naraku saw that they seemed to have become a little fat because he had not asked them for help for a long time. Naraku said to several people, "This is still the same. The 4 of you use the 4 purple flame formation. No matter what, don't use it. Do you understand?" Several people nodded in agreement. Then Naraku took Uchiha with him to hunt a special dangerous species. In fact, with Naraku's current strength, he could easily kill this dangerous species, but Naraku thought that sometimes he still needs to train more of his subordinates. Naraku looked at the lovely Uchiha blush on the little face next to him. He didn't know if it was because he had been training and eating hard recently. He seemed to have gained weight. Naraku then thought that he was either focusing on business power and improving his strength or preparing. Trick Danzo, too busy to get involved. But Uchiha Hoshiki is still too weak to carry the heavyweight. Naraku is a cowardly person. As a subordinate, if you cannot provide help, then you will repay with your body. Naraku stretched out his hand and gently pinched Feishi's little mouth with a little baby fat, feeling the soft touch from his fingertips. Feishi's eyes widened and he looked at Naraku blankly. However, she did not resist, but quietly allowed Naraku to play with her face. The corners of Naraku's mouth raised slightly, revealing a teasing smile. While gently squeezing her crimson cheeks, he observed the changes in her expression. Feishi's face gradually turned red, and her eyes showed confusion, but there was still no sign of resistance. Naraku found it very interesting and continued to play with his little scarlet face. After a while, he let go. It can be regarded as using this subordinate. The four people walking in front could only pretend not to know. As the Uchiha quartet used the four purple flame formation, Naraku said to Uchiha, "I will release a special dangerous species later. This dangerous species has the ability to fly and can use its wings to launch feather attacks. In addition, there is great strength and speed. I won't take action this time, and you will hunt this special and dangerous species alone. Can it be done?" "Yeah," Uchiha nodded in a cute tone. Naraku then released the feathered beast, which was 3 meters tall, had 4 wings, and was covered in snow-white feathers like snowflakes. There is a hard beak on the mouth and sharp claws on the feet. Featherman, who had just arrived in the ninja world, was a little confused. It was clearly sleeping just now, so why did it suddenly run into this strange place? But when the feathered beast saw the few humans it liked to kill the most, it immediately shifted its attention. It immediately spread its wings and wanted to fly, but was blocked by the 4 purple flame formation, and was even burned by the flames on the 4 purple flame formation. It screamed angrily, as if it wanted to release all the anger in its heart. Immediately afterwards, it began to use the feathers on its wings to attack, and its targets were Naraku and Feishi. Countless feathers shot at them like arrows, forming a dense barrage. The AoE range was very wide, leaving people with nowhere to escape. Facing this attack, Naraku formed seals with his hands and performed the Earth-style Tulu return technique. An earth wall instantly rose up from the ground, completely protecting Naraku. The dense feathers hit the earth wall, making a crisp sound, but they were unable to penetrate the earth wall's defense. At the same time, Uchiha also showed off her penultimate fighting skills. She moved her body flexibly and skillfully avoided most of the feather attacks. At the same time, she held Murasama in her hand and waved it at an extremely fast speed, cutting off the feathers that were close to her one by one. It seems that the feathered beast found that this AoE attack is not very effective, and it seems that the feathered beast cannot fly high. The feathered beast stood directly on the ground and used its big wings to flap at Uchiha. However, Uchiha was extremely flexible and avoided the feathered beast's attack with just one jump. Then he used Murasama to directly chop at the feathered beast's wings, but the wings of the feathered beast were blocked by thick feathers. Scarlet's blow was not a particularly powerful chop, it could only be said to have slightly broken the feathered beast's defense. The curse seal from Murasama quickly covered the feathered beast's body, but the feathered beast did not fall down. It just howled twice in pain, and its breath became a little sluggish. Naraku on the side looked at this scene with some guesses in his heart. Murasama's poison comes from the poisonous beast, and the poison of the cursed beast is still no problem against humans. But when it comes to dealing with those very large creatures that have full poison resistance, they are a bit powerless. He couldn't kill the Lion King before, but he didn't kill him immediately. He thought it was because the immortality of the undead Lion King suppressed the poison. Now look at it, come not. Faced with the fact that this blow did not kill the feathered beast, Uchiha was also a little surprised. But it reacted quickly, and struck another blow at the wing of the feathered beast. This blow completely angered the feathered beast. The feathered beast raised its claws and tried to grab Uchiha Hoshiki, but Uchiha Hoshiki dodged it in a blink of an eye. The feathered beast behind saw the right moment and pecked Uchiha Hoshiro with its hard beak. Uchiha Hoshiro immediately raised his sword to resist. With a dang sound, Uchiha was pushed back by the powerful force of the feathered beast. She used this force to directly distance herself. Then Uchiha formed the Scarlet Hand Seal. Fire-style Dragon Flame Jutsu. Uchiha released a linear flame from his cherry mouth, and the flame burned directly on the feathered beast. The feathered beast made a sharp and shrill sound. Naraku was watching a little anxiously. He was really worried that if the feathered beast's wings were burned off, it would affect the quality of the new Taigu. Uchiha held Murasama tightly in his hand, his eyes firm and decisive. She knew this was a good opportunity for output. At this moment, she did not hesitate to inject lightning-style chakra into Murasama, and at the same time let her body accept the stimulation of lightning-style chakra. In an instant, her body became lighter, as if she had merged with the thunder and lightning. Her speed is astonishing, as fast as lightning, dazzling. The feathered beast was unable to capture Uchiha's crimson figure at all, and could only be beaten passively. Uchiha wields Murasama, and every swing brings fierce sword energy and thunder and lightning power. Her attacks were like a storm, constantly leaving deep and shallow wounds on the feathered beast. The feathered beast screamed in pain, but could not escape the attack range of Uchiha. Finally, with Uchiha's final blow, the feathered beast's head was completely chopped off. Blood splattered everywhere, and the feathered beast's body fell weakly, ending its life. Uchiha breathed heavily and looked at the feathered beast lying on the ground. Naraku touched Uchiha's scarlet head and said, "Well done, go back and have a good rest and eat barbecue." Naraku then asked the group of 4 to untie the 4 purple flame formation and bring the feathered beast's body to the forging room. Naraku did not forge immediately, but was preparing to receive the reward. He saw that the system had another reward. Bite. Shimura Danzo's use of the A pseudo-level Imperial weapon, Invigorating Armor, has reached the primary level, and the talent copy is activated. Shimura Danzo controls all wind escape techniques. After Naraku received all of Danzo's wind power, wind release, vacuum wave, wind release, vacuum continuous wave, wind release, vacuum sphere, wind release, vacuum sphere, wind release, vacuum dayama, wind release, hand sword, wind release, vacuum sword. Danzo's wind release ninjutsu, which had been trained thousands of times, were quickly mastered by Naraku. Naraku opened his eyes again, thinking that his wind attribute chakra seemed to be copied from Danzo. Lord Danzo's kindness to him should never be forgotten. So when he plans to kill Danzo in the future, he must kill him quickly. Bite. Uchiha Hoshiki's utilization of the A-level Taigu, Kill with 1/Murasama, has reached the intermediate level, and the talent is copied and activated. Uchiha bloodline power is at the intermediate level. The intermediate level of Uchiha blood power from Uchiha Scarlet was directly injected into Naraku's body. Naraku felt hot all over and his eyes were a little itchy. Unfortunately, Naraku did not awaken Mangekyo until the end. Naraku looked at the explanation of the intermediate level of Uchiha's bloodline power, but it was not a simple eye power. He guessed that this might be to increase the upper limit of his own bloodline. He has always had a clear understanding of his talent. If he hadn't been instilled with eye power and the promotion of Senju blood, he might not have been able to reach the 3 Magatama in this life, let alone be one step away from Mangekyo Sharingan at the age of 9. The awakening of Mangekyo Sharingan should depend on bloodline. Not everyone should be qualified to awaken Mangekyo. Otherwise, in the original book, Uchiha should be able to destroy a few pairs of Mangekyo on the night of genocide. Naraku reflected for a moment, and he felt that if he wanted to awaken Mangekyo Sharingan faster, he needed some more powerful stimulation and the obsession brought by stimulation. In addition, it can also be awakened by continuously improving the purity of the bloodline. Uchiha Sarana is the best proof. Shan Magatama awakened after not seeing his father for a long time, or Magatama became angry and awakened when he was fighting with the enemy, and Mangekyo awakened directly after crying in front of his father because of Boruto. After calming down, Naraku began to prepare to forge a new Taigu. Naraku's usual practice is to think before starting to forge. After all, the Taigu is something from another world. Now that he has come to the ninja world, he will not remain unchanged. The Wanli flying Mastama in the world of Zanmei is an iron ring attached to the owner's back. After the Taigu owner activates it, a pair of big white wings will appear. Although it can also perform some attacks, it seems to be very flexible overall. But in the ninja world that masters escape techniques, sometimes it is easy to become a living target in the sky. Although there are skills to resist the enemy's projectiles, it still doesn't feel very good. And the big white wings also seem to have insufficient defense. Uchiha Hoshiki Aikika Chunin can easily break the defense with Murasama. So Naraku has a guess. First, he can mix a little more refined iron to enhance the chakra's conductive ability, and after the forging is completed, the user can combine the wind release with the taigu and then exert stronger strength. Naraku thought about who in Konoha was more powerful in wind release. Danzo's fierce old face appeared in Naraku's mind, and then Naraku thought that he had copied Danzo's wind release inheritance. So 1 Naraku equals 1 Danzo. Considering Naraku's chakra amount should be Naraku greater than Danzo. But with Fang done, the wing defense is still a bit inadequate. At this time, Naraku thought of the villain Vulture in Spider-Man No Home. The pair of steel wings looked very handsome, although Wanlifei Mastama had a pair of big white wings. But in fact, its flight does not entirely rely on kinetic energy, but there are some magical elements in it. For example, it can hover in the air even if its wings do not move. Moreover, the offensive feathers are not completely solid feathers. Otherwise, if a taigu does not grow hair, will it become bald after being used for a period of time? Therefore, adding a steel coat to the wings may sacrifice a little weight, and the consequences of this weight should be offset by the input of chakra. Is he Uchiha Naraku chakra? Another drawback is that it is impossible for the steel wings to be completely integrated into the taigu circle, but Naraku doesn't care. The defense brought about is greatly improved, and it can even be used directly as a shield in the face of some low-level ninjutsu attacks, and further enhances the chakra conduction ability. After thinking about it, Naraku hurriedly started doing it enthusiastically. After all, what boy doesn't want to have handsome steel wings that can fly? Naraku hurriedly took out the body of the feathered beast, 10 parts of Aurea steel, 20 kilograms of fine iron, 1 part of green orangutan crimson sand iron, and orangutan crimson ore. This time, Naraku creatively used the technique of wood clone, and then arranged for wooden men 1, 2, and 3 to melt the metal respectively. He himself cut off the feathered beast's wings and directly fused the feathered beast's trunk into biological essence. On the other hand, in order to increase the upper limit of the wings, Naraku directly extracted the 2 small wings of the feathered beast, which were mainly for aesthetic purposes, and inject all these biological essences into the feathered beast's large wings. At this time, the 3 wooden clones had already fused the metal links. Then Oliha steel was injected into the wings, gorilla crimson sand iron, and gorilla crimson ore were used to form veins inside the wings, and the fine iron was wrapped around the wings. Later, as the temperature of the wings dropped, the secret spell seal began to cover the surface of the wings. With the last flash of light, the forging of Wanlifei Mastma was completed. Bite. Congratulations to the blacksmith for forging an A-level weapon that flies thousands of miles. Mastama. Looking at the original design, Naraku couldn't see any similarities in the wings, so he was going to change the name directly. System, renamed this taigu as Steel Angel Wings. Simply called Steel Wings. Bite. Wanli Flying Mastama has been renamed Steel Angel Wings for you. Next, Naraku began to check the properties of this wing. Steel Angel Wings. A-level wing taigu. This taigu uses feathered beasts as biological raw materials. In addition, it also uses Aurea steel, fine iron, orangutan crimson sand iron and orangutan crimson ore. During the forging process, the forger fully innovated based on the standard forging technology of the wing taigu. It finally took 7 hours to forge. Because the forger creatively covered the surface of biological materials with fine iron, the taigu received additional improvements while also being weakened in some places. Overall, it surpasses the original taigu. The Steel Angel wings can be retracted behind the user's back, eventually forming a thick shield. It has tough and sharp properties and has a strong ability to conduct chakra. Functions. 1. Basic abilities. Allows the user to fly, and feathers can shoot enemies. 2. The secret skill is Feather of God, which can bounce the opponent's flying props back. 3. Iron wings. You can fold your wings for defense. 4. Single attribute chakra enhancement. 5. Shield form. The taigu can be folded into a shield. The edge of the shield is very sharp and can cut enemies. Naraku put the steel wings on his back, and when he went out, he saw Uchiha Makoto, who seemed a little depressed. Naraku stepped forward, touched Uchiha Makoto's head and said, "Who made my Makoto angry? I'll teach him a lesson." Naraku. Uchiha Makoto looked at Naraku in surprise, then hesitated for a long time and said, "Naraku, you have changed so much, you have become more and more powerful. I used to take care of you, but now it seems that even you I can't help you. You went to hunt for a new dangerous species but you didn't call me." Naraku thought for a while, and now on the surface, Uchiha Makoto did not have much help for him. But sometimes what Naraku lacks is not strong help, but more importantly, people he can trust. And Uchiha Makoto is undoubtedly worthy of Naraku's trust. He quickly comforted her and said, "You are just a ninja school student who has not yet graduated. What you need is growth. In fact, even Fies, I took her there because I wanted to temper her. And you can help me a little," Naraku said, pretending to be mysterious. Uchiha Makoto looked at Naraku with wide eyes. "What?" Naraku said seriously. "I am your child foster husband now, you have to take good care of me. After we get married, he will give me 10 or 8 children. With our talents, the children will surely be able to awaken the Mangekyo Sharingan, and it's up to you and me to restore the glory of the Uchiha clan. By then, I will be the patriarch of the Uchiha clan, and you will be the patriarch's wife." After saying that, he smiled triumphantly. However, what surprised Naraku was that Uchiha Makoto was not as angry or shy as he imagined. On the contrary, a faint blush appeared on her face, and she whispered in a voice as subtle as a mosquito, "How can it be so powerful? Then I have to think about it." After saying that, she lowered her head. Go, as if a little embarrassed. Now watching Uchiha Makoto, I finally understand what it means to be the most difficult to accept the kindness of a beautiful woman. It's a pity that there is a god tier who is suppressing him, making it impossible for him to immediately work hard for Uchiha's glory. Later, Naraku pointed to the steel wings behind him and said, "Makoto, do you want to fly?" 1 month later, psychic art. A huge Sansho fish appeared on the battlefield. As the Sansho fish spit out a huge amount of poisonous gas, the few Iwa ninjas in the Land of Rain also fell one after another. In the end, under the leadership of the ninja demigod, Sansho Hanzo, Rain Shinobi Village, a small ninja village, just broke up Iwagakure's troops on the front line of Rain Country. "We won. The Kingdom of Rain wins. We defeated the Iwagakure troops. Long live Hanzo-sama." Different from the last time that the samurai who suppressed the Iron Kingdom were suppressed, this time Sansho Hanzo led the weak Rain Shinobi to overthrow Iwagakure, which can be said to have completed a feat. With this victory, the entire Rain Shinobi was full of fighting spirit. But Sansho Hanzo was not so happy, because even with him, the strength gap between Rain Shinobi and Iwa Ninja was still very large, and the number of deaths in this battle was almost the same. The Iwagakure family can quickly replenish these people, but this is not the case for Rain Shinobi. But victory is victory, these big countries are not so invincible. His next target is Sunagakure. After Onoki saw the news from the front line, he suppressed his anger and thought, "Sansho Hanzo, you are worthy of being the demigod of the ninja world. With Sansho, the top water style and the climate of the Land of Rain, your strength now may even be I am no match. But how long can you lead a small ninja village to kill? Want to challenge a big country ninja village? Let's wait and see." Onoki said to his men. "Iwa ninja withdraw troops." In fact, the foundation of the Iwa ninja is still very strong. Even if the Kingdom of Rain loses one after another, it can only be said to be a small defeat. Onoki was prepared to observe the situation for a while, and Kumogakure next to him had been watching with eager eyes. It was at this time that it was completely announced that Iwa Ninja had temporarily withdrawn from the melee team in the Kingdom of Rain. Another month later, the war broke out between Yuyan Village and Sand Hidden Village. Although the overall strength of Sunagakure Village ranks lowest among the 5 major ninja villages, as a large ninja village, the quality of its ninjas is still far higher than that of Iwagakure Village. However, Sansho Hanzo, the demigod of the ninja world, dared to declare war on Sunagakure Village and even Konoha Village, and he was obviously prepared. Sunagakure Village has powerful people such as Chiyo's siblings, Chiyo's son and daughter-in-law. Although Chiyo's son and daughter-in-law were killed by Hitaki Tsukumo in the future, they looked weak, but the strength of the two was still close to the movie level, and even the two joined forces. The average shadow level is no match. The rain-hidden village pales in comparison. Except for Hanzo, a powerful figure, they have almost no other strong people who can compete with them. As soon as the battle began, the number of ninjas in Yuyan village decreased rapidly. The situation was very unfavorable to them, and they quickly fell into a disadvantage. However, just in the middle of the battle, Hanzo showed his amazing strength. I saw him cut his finger, and then a huge psychic beast, Sanshoyu, Abushi, appeared on the battlefield. This mountain pepper fish is huge and stands like a small hill. It opened its bloody mouth and sprayed out a large amount of thick poisonous mist, instantly covering the entire battlefield. The poisonous mist spread, making it impossible to see, and breathing became difficult. However, the ninjas in Yuyan village were already prepared. They prepared gas masks and antidotes in advance to protect themselves from the poisonous fog. Ensure that Rain Shinobi can still maintain full status and continue to fight the enemy in such a harsh environment. It can be said that the appearance of this psychic beast put the Sand Shinobi who already had the advantage into trouble and brought them huge pressure. The power of this poisonous mist is almost equivalent to that of biological and chemical weapons. Many ninjas in Sunagakur village immediately collapsed and died after inhaling the poisonous mist. Ninjas with high poison resistance also suffered symptoms such as paralysis and dizziness. Seeing the heavy casualties in her family, the old woman Chio could only force her family of 4 to contain Hanzo. Hanzo felt a little numb when he looked at the densely packed puppets in front of him. As soon as he cut one with his sickle, the second one came up again. Moreover, the poison itself is not very effective against the puppets. These puppets are not afraid of poison. But that's okay, the enemy's 4 generals are here to contain him. My family can still take advantage of Jingfu's poison. Chio looked at Hanzo, who was easily able to maneuver among the puppets, and then he fully realized how difficult this ninja demigod was. He also knew that it was impossible to kill him this time, so he shouted, "Retreat." After hearing that the commander gave permission to retreat, the Sand Shinobi below also hurriedly fled. In the end, this battle ended with Yuyan village gaining the upper hand. This news shocked the entire ninja world, although Omegakure had defeated Iwagakure before. But that was the defeat when Iwagakure's front line collapsed, resulting in Iwagakure's few troops remaining in the Rain country, and there were no powerful generals to support the front line. This time, except for the 3rd generation Kazekage and Jinchuriki, who are known as the strongest sand shadows, Sunagakur has not played. It can be said that almost everything that can be played has been played. The number of troops was also much larger than Iwagakure's troops before, but they were defeated. 3rd Reikage I received the news of Sunagakur's defeat in the office. He laughed out loud at the time. How powerful is Sancho Hanzo? This Sunagakur simply disgraced the 5 major ninja villages. Even with almost all the troops deployed, he was still defeated. Rain Shinobi was defeated. I think this kind of trash is not worthy of being included in the team of the top 5 ninja villages. If the land in the country of wind were not so rubbish, I, Kumogakure, could quickly eliminate Sunagakur. 3rd Reikage's secretary Dabo next I said expressionlessly, Sunagakur can only be said to be a small defeat. The top ninjas did not suffer too much loss, and the results are not certain if they are consumed. And Reikage-sama, we Kumogakure don't have any good solutions. The poison of Sancho fish Hanzo. And I see that you are very free now. The number of unprocessed documents you left in the office is almost higher than yours. Why don't you take care of it? 3rd Reikage after hearing this, I hurriedly jumped out of the window with dumbbells, and said, help me deal with it, I want to focus on the military. Other ninja villages basically once again realized the difficulty of Sancho Hanzo through this battle. However, what surprised everyone was that although Yu Yin won the first battle, the subsequent battles were very anxious. Because Chio is a master of poison, she can naturally prepare an antidote in a short time. Although Chio's antidote is not completely immune to the poison of Sancho Yubushi, it can greatly reduce the possibility of one of his own being poisoned. Some ninjas who are not deeply poisoned can also fight normally, and in this case, the role of the quality of the personnel between the big and small ninja villages is reflected a little bit. It can be said that under the suppression of this weaker debuff, Sunagakur can basically trade 1.5 for 1 with Yugakure. But this is also the case where Sunagakur has the antidote, and Sanshoyu Hanzo is also constantly updating the poison. The only thing that makes Sunagakure happy is that Chiyo can always find the antidote to Hanzo's poison in a short period of time. And during the battle, Mikio also discovered the fatal weakness of the Sansho fish, which is that the Sansho fish cannot always release poisonous gas. After it releases the poisonous gas in its body, it needs to reuse its own chakra and biological functions to create the poisonous gas again, and this process takes 5 minutes. Originally, when Hanzo easily won the first battle, he still thought that he could take over Sunagakure village and replace his opponent as one of the 5 great ninja villages. But now he has repeatedly hit the wall, which makes Hanzo feel very bad, especially Chiyo, who keeps cracking his poison. So he gave Chiyo the nickname, Puppet Old Woman, and Chiyo also mocked Hanzo as the old man with a snorkel. Because although Chiyo can make an antidote very quickly, when Hanzo uses a new poison, he always has to poison a group of people and then use his ninja subordinates to kill a group of people. In addition, Sunagakure was relatively poor and the storage of drugs was also very limited, so the antidote could never take care of all the troops. Therefore, the two sides have been constantly consuming while Yugakure maintains its relative advantage. Until one day, both Sunagakure and Omegakure suddenly realized that their constant fight would only benefit other ninja villages. The first is Sansho Hanzo. When he won the first battle, he thought about replacing Sunagakure as one of the new 5 ninja villages. However, after a long battle, he found that people on his side were constantly changing. There is no benefit if it continues like this. Even if Sunagakure is defeated by then, Omegakure will be gone too. Regardless of whether someone occupies the land or not, other ninja villages will definitely come to pick it up. In addition, his initial goal was to drive Sunagakure out of the country of rain. Now this goal has been completed long ago. Now let alone driving out Sunagakure, the war has already reached the territory of the country of wind, so Sansho Hanzo doesn't want to go back to the country of wind. Hit. The Sunagakure village on the other side is already at the bottom of the 5 great ninja villages in terms of its own strength. If it continues to fight against Omegakure like this, even if it defeats Omegakure in the future, it will most likely be annexed by other ninja villages. Although their territory is not very good, if you can get prostitution for free, other ninja villages will definitely not refuse. What's more, they have always been at a relative disadvantage. The famous military strategist Li Yunlong once said, "I will not do a business that loses money." For Sunagakure, fighting in the land of rain did not bring any benefits, and being beaten by a small ninja village into his own home was really humiliating. So Sagakure wanted to sue for peace again. I have to say that the ninja village of Sunagakure really took shamelessness to the extreme. It can be seen from the fact that when the first generation of their family signed the peace contract, they not only refused to give money but also wanted money and were even prepared to let Konoha cede the land. In the many ninja wars that followed, he started the fastest and surrendered faster. The main one is shameless. Naturally, it was the same this time. Ching Mimi, who completely ignored the embarrassment, arranged for people to go to Sanjiao Hanzo and said that they wanted a truce. Hanzo, the Sansho fish, just didn't want to fight either, so the two of them hit it off. They started talking about war reparations. Later, Sansho Hanzo was so angry that it was obviously Sunagakure who asked him for a truce. But after Sansho Hanzo asked for war compensation, Sunagakure not only didn't want to give it, but also wanted to ask him for some money. Speaking of which, we, Sunagakure, suffered heavy losses in this war, and our Sunagakure village was relatively poor, so for the sake of peace, Yu Yuyin better give me some compensation. In other words, Hanzo himself didn't want to fight the Sansho fish, otherwise Hanzo would definitely teach this shameless ninja village a lesson. After the truce between Sunagakure and Omegakure, the two sides fell into a strange calm. However, since the armed forces of the major powers were actually not consumed much, the major powers still had the capital to fight. It wasn't until the news spread that Senju Nezuki was seriously injured and comatose for several months, all the ninja villages turned their attention to Konoha again like hungry wolves. The news that Senju transformed into a dragon from a rope tree really scared several ninja villages. That kind of large-scale wood style is not as good as the Senju Hashirama recorded in the literature. But it can be regarded as a little pillar room, so each ninja village strangely ignored the existence of Konoha. Now that the news came out that Senju Rope Tree was seriously injured and comatose, each ninja village looked at the information again, and it seems that Senju Rope Tree has not appeared for several months. Later, there were bounty hunters selling information on the black market. A few months ago, the Senju Rope Tree was carried back to Konoha by the third Hokage apprentice Senju Tsunade and Jiraiya. This news confirms that the previous news about Senju Nezuki's coma may be true, but the various ninja villages are still reluctant to make the first move, but try their best to get the latest news or directly let Konoha prove that Senju Nezuki is not in a coma. Some even had the courage to demand that Konoha could no longer imprison Uchiha Naraku. Uchiha Naraku belonged to the entire ninja world and demanded a reasonable distribution of all the weapons forged by Uchiha Naraku. In the past, what attracted people's attention here in Konoha was the land, but now there is a great blacksmith named Uchiha Naraku here, which can be said to be full of temptation. Under such a tempting situation, the patience of other ninja villages can only be said to be limited. In the Hokage office, all members of Konoha F4 are present. Shimura Danzo, Sarutobi Hiruzen, Kaharu, and Mito Kadenin were quarreling wildly. Shimura Danzo was the first to attack Hiruzen. Now Konoha has reached a critical moment. We must show our strength. You give me the taigu of the Nezu tree, and I will go to the front line to teach those hungry wolves a lesson. As soon as Danzo finished speaking, he appeared in the office with 3 words of no. Danzo stared at his 3 teammates with wide eyes, his eyes seeming to say, "How can we do good politics with you bugs?" Sarutobi Hiruzen also gave an official explanation. The rope tree is now unconscious and needs to be haunted by evil spirits to continuously relieve the chaotic energy caused by transforming into a dragon in his body. Moreover, the evil haunting taigu is even more picky about the choice of its owner. Even Tsunade cannot use it to fully unleash its true power. And if you are fighting randomly like this, aren't you afraid of being besieged by the other 4 villages? Quote, Danzo's eyes lit up when he heard this, and then returned to his original expression, as if the change just now was just an illusion. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.